This is Atomic Shinobi, and today I'm going to narrate second part of What If Naruto Was the Last Saiyan of the Universe. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no time, let's start the story.
Naruto worked on the spirit gun in his mindscape for the remainder of the day after receiving a reprimand from his mother. Naruto soon discovered that he could practice all the techniques in his head and never run out of energy, which was advantageous considering Naruto's lack of experience with the technique. To wield the spirit gun effectively, one needed a great deal of Reiki and Reiki control. People can only fire off one shot per day when they first learn it, usually because their Reiki tanks are only that full. Naruto had terrible control, but he had more than enough Reiki for 10 shots. Naruto asked his mother for assistance in controlling Reiki after realizing that Kushina motioned for him to approach her. She continued, "Meditate. Like I told you before, your Reiki pulsates from your heart. You have to draw it from there, to your hands." Naruto concentrated his energy on his hands while closing his eyes. Kushina then stated, "Now push it farther. Try to focus it to the tip of your index finger." Naruto focused harder and followed Kushina's instructions. Then, out of nowhere, Kushina produced a kunai and drove its round end into the ground. She replied, "Okay son, now try to balance your..." "Wait a minute, what the fuck am I thinking?" "Never mind. Get up Naruto, and follow me." Despite being perplexed by his mother's topic, Naruto leapt to his feet and followed her to a tree. She continued, "Naruto, what I'm about to teach you is surface walking. If you can master this, then you will be able to walk up trees, buildings, ceilings, any solid surface. I want you to first try it with chakra, then try it with Reiki." Naruto replied, "All right, then, Mom." After running up the tree, Naruto collapsed back onto his ass. Naruto barely made it higher than before, landing on his ass when he attempted to run up again. Kushina was saying, "Naruto-chan, try taking it one step at a time. Going slower will help you a lot, trust me." After nodding, Naruto chose to move more slowly. Naruto was limited to 5 steps before he collapsed. "Mom," Naruto remarked, "I didn't get as high as I did before." Kushina replied, "Naruto-chan, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Speed doesn't equal success." With a sigh, Naruto made several shadow clones. They all made the decision to fight together. After 30 minutes, the tallest Naruto was only able to ascend 20 steps at most before he lost his balance. Kushina was saying, "Naruto, try dispelling your cage bunshin now. See how far you can go alone." After processing all of their experiences, Naruto expelled his shadow clones and resumed his attack. Naruto had no trouble climbing the whole tree. As Kushina put it, "Good Naruto-chan, now try running." After leaping from the tree, Naruto attempted to run up it, but this time, he was only able to climb 10 steps before he collapsed. I asked Naruto, "What happened?" Kushina continued, "When you walked up it, you took steps when you were ready. This time, you have to manipulate the chakra at the rate you're running. Now you know how much chakra is needed to stick, but you have to get faster at drawing out that amount." Naruto stood back up after nodding. 10 shadow clones were made by him, and they all fled up the trees. It took Naruto an additional 30 minutes to return to his typical 20-step height. Naruto found it much easier after running up the tree and dispelling the shadow clones. As Kushina put it, "Good Naruto-kun, you got it." Then, leaping at him, Kushina struck him in the face. "Mom, what the hell?" cried Naruto. Kushina swiftly twisted and struck Naruto with the heel of her foot after launching a flimsy hook at him. She replied, "Don't speak to your mother like that, boy." Then, as they were clinging to the tree, Kushina leapt at Naruto and began to battle him. Because he had to stay by the tree's side, Naruto could hardly avoid his mother's blows. After a while, Naruto stumbled and fell to the ground. "Naruto, we'll begin fighting and surface walking simultaneously," Kushina sighed. Konoha State Park vanished as Kushina closed her eyes. Now they were in a blank space that was all white. When they regained sight, they found themselves in a long room. "Naruto, make 10 shadow clones," Kushina commanded. Naruto and Kushina both produced 10. "Mom," Naruto remarked, "I thought you had no energy." Kushina replied, "Correction, I have no Yuki. All of it was turned into chakra, which I can still use." Then Kushina lunged for the real Naruto and engaged him in combat. Naruto's back began to be forced by Kushina's clones, until eventually they were all on the room's walls or ceiling. Kushina instructed her clones to only exert pressure on Naruto to continue fighting, not to strike him. After a half hour and hundreds of clones, Kushina instructed Naruto to descend. Both of them flipped to their upright positions after falling from the ceiling. Then she instructed Naruto to fight her and dispel his clones. After doing so, Naruto began to fight his mother. He had become accustomed to sticking to the ceiling. He could run or he could walk. Kushina replied, "Good, now we'll focus on rolling. You have to roll on the surface, which means that whenever your body part comes to contact with the surface, you have to focus chakra to that point. This will take a lot more than 10 clones to master." "No problem." Naruto made 50 shadow clones and began their work. Then Kushina lowered herself to observe her son's training. After a half hour, Naruto quickly processed the information and tried dispelling his clones 10 at a time. Kushina replied, "You're moving really quick with this, Naruto-chan. If you keep moving this quick, we can get in water walking before the night's over. As a matter of fact, I have an idea." Shutting her eyes, Kushina altered the scenery once more. The room was exactly the same this time, but half of the floor space was occupied by a massive hot tub. She continued, "Now, get 50 clones working on water walking while you and 20 clones work on surface rolling. Also, make 50 more clones. Those clones will work on using pure Reiki to walk up walls." After forming the 120 clones she requested, Naruto said, "Okay then." He then began the rolling. After an hour, Naruto tried what Kushina had instructed him to do after destroying 10 clones at a time. Now, Naruto had no trouble rolling on solid surfaces. Although he wasn't yet able to fight on water, he could run and walk on water surfaces. He could enroll in additional training for that. He couldn't run yet, but walking on walls with Reiki was getting there. Kushina replied, "Come on, Naruto-chan, by the time you leave here tonight, I want you completely able to walk, run, roll, and fight on any solid or liquid surface with either chakra or Reiki." While 50 clones were experimenting with water walking using Reiki, Naruto created 50 more and had them engage in water combat. 50 more were rolling with Reiki or running up walls. Naruto gave these clones 2 hours to complete their tasks. When they dispelled, Naruto at last achieved his mother's objective. With chakra or Reiki, he could now move with ease on solid surfaces or in water. "Well done, Naruto. Try the Reiki sword again," Kushina remarked. When Naruto focused, a blue Reiki sword materialized in his hand in less than a second. Naruto tested the sword's weight in his hands by giving it a few waves. "I did it," exclaimed Naruto. Kushina replied, "As I expected. Now when you wake up, I want you to try the spirit gun again. See how many shots you can get off before you run out of Reiki. But for now, it's getting late. I think you should go to sleep." "Good night, Mom." Naruto nodded. The following morning, Naruto was making his way to the training ground on foot. He was thinking deeply about what to do about his team, which was unusual for him. "Do I have to tell them?" A voice in his head said, "I thought we had this conversation earlier, Naruto. If they're your true friends, they won't see you any differently." "Mom, I understand what you said, however, I simply cannot shake my fear." In Naruto's mind, Kushina laughed and said, "I understand how you feel. You have no idea how difficult it was for me to reveal to your father that I was a demon. After a year of cohabitation, I revealed my demonic ancestry to him. Are you aware of what he did?" "What?" "He gave me a slap on the head and said, 'Stupid, why did you take so long to tell me?'" Kushina said. With a small laugh, Naruto asked himself, "So he wasn't mad or anything?" "Oh, he was mad," Kushina said. "He was upset that I hadn't given him enough confidence with the secret sooner. He claimed that I didn't know him if I believed he would alter his opinion of me over something so foolish." "I hope Hinata-chan and Shino are as forgiving as Dad was," Naruto retorted. When Naruto arrived at the training ground, he saw Hinata and Shino stretching lightly. Naruto approached Hinata and wished her a good morning kiss, and Shino, observing Naruto's show of affection, remarked, "Get a room." After turning to face Shino, Naruto said, "Get a girl." After a brief period of silence, Shino said, "Touché." "So, what are we going to do today?" Hinata asked. With a sigh, Naruto said, "I have to tell you something before we start. This might take some time, so sit down." Naruto sat in front of Shino and Hinata as they sat down, saying, "You guys know that I'm the container for the Kyuubi, right?" "Naruto, is this about that again?" Shino asked. "We don't view you any differently, as we previously stated. No, you are not the Kyuubi." "You're right, Shino," Naruto sighed. "I am his grandson, not the Kyuubi." "What?" cried Hinata. Shino's sunglasses fell off, revealing his green eyes to the world as his jaw literally fell to the ground. "I am the grandson of the Kyuubi," Naruto stated, turning to his side. "In summary, the Kyuubi had my mother, and he intended to murder her in order to secure her succession to his position as the Demon King. After he escaped from his seal and killed Mom, he was sealed in me. In some way, Mom ended up with him sealed in her." Like Shino, Hinata began to gather herself, saying, "Wait a minute, so that means that you're actually a demon?" According to Naruto, I'm half demon. So the other half of your blood is human, right? Shino asked. That's where things start to get crazy, Naruto said, shaking his head. I'm half demon, quarter human, and quarter alien, it turns out. Once more, Hinata exclaimed. What? Naruto remarked. It turns out that my dad was descended from an alien race and somehow had his alien blood reawakened and became half alien. Shino's mouth fell open, but he managed to keep his glasses on. So hold on, let me clarify, Hinata said. Are you quarter human? Still avoiding eye contact with Hinata, Naruto nodded. Hinata added, are you a quarter alien? Once more, Naruto nodded. And you're half demon? Hinata asked. Naruto replied, listen guys, I'd understand if you didn't want to be around me anymore. Hinata grabbed Naruto's chin and made him turn to face her, then gave him a deep kiss as if to convey her disinterest, but it seemed that Naruto understood, as he put his arms around her and held her close. After a while, Hinata broke off the kiss and punched him in the chest. What was that for, huh? For thinking that I'd ever leave you over something as small as that. How can you still want to be with me, though, Hinata-chan? I am a demon. And why should I care? Incredulous at Hinata's response to his query, Naruto exclaimed, H.Huh. With a serious expression on her face, Hinata addressed him directly, asking, do you want to slaughter a village full of people without cause? Never. Naruto shook his head. Hinata said, do you have a hunger for human flesh? While maintaining eye contact with him. He smirked and said, well, a certain kind of human flesh. Naruto really didn't want to, but he couldn't help losing the comment. Count on Minato's seed to ruin a moment as romantic as that. In Naruto's mind, Kushina fell to the ground with Naruto's foolishness, and Hinata turned a bright red at that. Shino began laughing as he watched them. To the surprise of everyone listening, Hinata leaned forward, smirked, and said, come over my house later, maybe we can nip that hunger in the bud. Now that Naruto was blushing, Hinata withdrew and put a serious expression back on her face, saying, but really, do you? As Naruto put it, of course not. So you don't act, think, or feel any different than you have throughout your life? Hinata asked. No, said Naruto. After giving Naruto a hug, Hinata remarked, then you're still the man I fell in love with, which is all I care about. Shino remarked, Naruto, we've been friends for a while, as Naruto's eyes began to well up with tears. Do you really believe that something so trivial would cause us to desert you? Naruto began to cry for the second time in less than a day after hearing Shino's statement, and he said, thanks guys. You truly have no idea how much this means to me. Hinata replied, trust me, Naruto-kun, no matter what happens in your life, count on me to be beside you until the end. Kushina thought, this girl's a keeper. Naruto's heart skipped a few beats upon hearing Hinata's words. After holding Hinata until he stopped crying, Naruto sat there and said, thanks. Shino and Hinata then assisted him in standing up. I'll always be here, Hinata declared. Let's start training now. In addition, I wouldn't discuss that with Kurenai Sensei just yet. You should wait until she gets to know you better, in my opinion. In this manner, she would begin to accept you for who you are, regardless of what you are. As Naruto put it, thanks, Hina-chan. Now come on, let's start training, Hinata said. Let me try something first, Naruto said. Since I'm her son, I'm also covered by the permission my mom apparently received from the Kuwabara and Urameshi clans to use some of their jutsu. Which ones? Shino asked. After grabbing his right wrist with his left hand and creating a fake gun with his thumb and index finger, Naruto pointed his hand toward a tree and fired a spirit gun, which landed on the tree after bouncing off his finger. Naruto closed his eyes and remarked, I still got some shots left. After firing off another one and pointing to another tree, Naruto muttered, damn, I'm spent. He then fired off 2 more before closing his eyes and feeling his power. What did you learn from the Kuwabara clan? Asked Hinata. Hinata remarked, niece, as Naruto directed Reiki toward his hand before forming a blue sword. Let's now examine its performance in comparison to an actual sword. According to Naruto, hold up a second. After changing into Super Saiyan, Naruto flew home, landing on his balcony, where he also had some plants. He then opened the balcony door and entered his house, went to his room, and looked under his bed to retrieve his sword, which had a black handle encrusted with gold diamonds and had no guard. The blade was about 2.5 feet long, and the handle was 6 inches long. Naruto then flew back to his training ground and threw his sword to Hinata, who said, come on then. Naruto swung his Reiki sword and lunged at Hinata, who held the sword horizontally to block his slash. Then, Forcing herself forward, Hinata pushed Naruto's sword back and attempted a diagonal slash at him, which Naruto blocked but which went through his Reiki sword and destroyed it. Both Hinata and Naruto were so stunned that they failed to notice Hinata's sword hitting his arm. Naruto said, "Shit," after glancing at the sword. "I'll have to have it fixed later. But I have to do something on my own for the time being." "What?" said Hinata. "You know that transformation that turns my hair blonde?" said Naruto. "Yeah," said Hinata. "It comes from my alien heritage," Naruto stated. "It is referred to as Super Saiyan. I'm working to become proficient in the second level, which I unlocked last night." "Is there anything I can do to help?" asked Hinata. Naruto remarked, "I don't believe so. I've got to overcome this on my own." After that, Naruto sat down and began to meditate. He changed into Super Saiyan and focused on moving forward until he reached the second level. He gritted his teeth and did his best to endure the pain the form caused, concentrating on remaining in Super Saiyan 2 for as long as he could, but eventually the pain became unbearable. He screamed and fell back to normal while huffing loudly to catch his breath. Naruto-chan, perhaps you should try doing that with Super Saiyan first, Kushina thought to himself. Your father did that, and he reported that it was very beneficial. Thanks, Mom, Naruto thought as he nodded his head. After that, Naruto changed into his Super Saiyan state and went back to training with his friends. Kurenai arrived and remarked, Naruto, what's up with you? I assumed you only transformed into that state for combat. I unlocked a second level to this state that I can't control, Naruto remarked. By essentially living in the first, I'm attempting to take control of the second. Kurenai looked perplexed. Naruto remarked, I get a lot of stress from the second form. To help me get through the second level, I'm attempting to cope with the stress of the first one. With a, oh, expression on her face, Kurenai said, well, Naruto, I wish you luck. Come on, team. We have a task to complete. They were paid and released for the day after finishing 4D rank missions. Naruto bid his team farewell and went to have his sword fixed while strolling down the street when he spotted the Phoenix Claw weapon shop, the store he was seeking. As Naruto entered, he noticed a girl at the counter wearing a red Konoha-8, a pink Chinese shirt, and green pants. Her hair was styled in 2 buns, and she said, hello, may I help you? Yeah, I need my sword to get fixed, Naruto replied. After drawing his sword, Naruto handed it to the girl, who replied, okay then, it shouldn't be that hard to do. That's because you haven't pulled it out of its sheath yet, Naruto said, laughing at her. After giving him a curious look, the girl withdrew the sheath and discovered that she could only remove a portion of the sword. The remainder remained in the sheath. I apologize, but the blade is ruined, the girl said. Nothing can be done about it. You'll need to purchase a new sword. How much would that be? Asked Naruto. The young lady replied, our cheapest sword is about 500 ryo, but a little advice, we didn't actually make it, and it dulls quickly, so it would just be a waste of money. Well, miss, how much would a good sword cost me? Naruto asked. Hold up, said the girl. About 2,500 ryo. Naruto said, damn, after looking at his wallet. I have only 1,500. Sorry then, I can't sell it to you, the girl said. Is there any way that I can work off the difference? Asked Naruto. Give me a second, she said. A black-haired man who said, hello, I'm Dustin, followed the girl as she went into the back of the store. How may I help you? Well, I want to buy a sword that costs 2,500 ryo. But I only have 1,500, Naruto said. I wanted to know if I could make up the difference. We need a stock boy around the shop, Dustin stated. How much weight can you lift on a bench? I don't know, Naruto said. I am aware that I can use one hand to lift a merchant cart. With wide eyes, Dustin uttered, you're lying. I'm going to die if I'm lying, Naruto declared. Furthermore, I don't see myself dying anytime soon. Prove it. The man went into the store's back and returned with a metal pole, saying, lay on the ground and bench press this. As the man instructed, Naruto said, this thing isn't heavy at all. Dustin replied, that's because it grows heavier with chakra. After that, Dustin placed his hand on the pole and began channeling chakra into it. The more he poured, the heavier it became, but Naruto was still able to bench press it without any issues. Eventually, the bar became too heavy for Naruto to handle, so he closed his eyes and began summoning more of his power, which increased his strength. Dustin continued to pour chakra into the pole, but Naruto simply increased his power level. Dustin then said, alright then, you got the job. After setting the pole aside, Naruto got back up and asked, how heavy did the pole get? According to Dustin, a little over half a ton. With a look of surprise on his face, Naruto exclaimed, really? I was unaware of my strength. The typical merchant cart weighs about 300 pounds, Dustin stated. You are very strong, kid. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it, the girl, who was observing the entire event, said. Dustin replied, listen, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. According to Naruto Uzumaki. Listen, Naruto. You'll come and assist here at this time, 3 hours a day, for approximately a month, Dustin said. We'll be on equal footing if you can accomplish that. Really? Said Naruto. Thank you. Dustin replied, no issue. This is the start of your first day of work. Follow me now. You can begin to take inventory of our storage room and organize everything, Dustin said, leading Naruto and the girl to the back room, where everything was in disarray and hundreds of kunai, shuriken, swords, staffs, hammers, and other items were lying around. Tenten will keep an eye on you. After that, Dustin went to keep an eye on the front desk, and Naruto remarked, damn. There's a lot of stuff in here, you guys. Tenten continued, we get like 50 people in here a day to get weapons. Well, then, I better start working, Naruto said. Bunshin no Jutsu Cage. 10 Narutos appeared in a puff of smoke, and each one moved forward to begin cleaning the storage room, leaving Tenten and Naruto at the entrance. How are they doing that? Don't you think clones are just genjutsu? Those aren't your typical clones, Naruto remarked. They are clones of the shadow. Tenten remarked, but doesn't using that jutsu require a lot of chakra? Saying with a sly smile, it's a good thing I have more than most Junin then. You're lying, Tenten said. You cannot possibly possess more chakra than a Junin. Naruto exclaimed, really? Want to place a wager? Tenten replied, yes. What is the wager? Let's head to the store's entrance, Naruto said. Seize the next Junin that happens to pass by. You must spar with me in Kenjutsu if I have more chakra than he does. And if you don't, then you owe me 500 Ryo, Tenten stated. Deal, said Naruto. After 10 minutes Tenten's eyes were as big as saucer plates as she gazed at Naruto, asking, what the hell? Junin, did you really have more chakra than that? Naruto replied, yep, and now you have to be my Kenjutsu sparring partner. Tenten replied, all right then. Tenten took 2 wooden swords and threw one to Naruto, who barely had time to catch it before Tenten charged and struck him. Tenten then swung repeatedly, and after blocking 3 of them, he fell. Naruto got back up, and Tenten remarked, that was pitiful Naruto. Tenten led Naruto to the open yard at the back entrance of the shop. You learned Kenjutsu from whom? No one, said Naruto. Usually, my girlfriend and I just work out a little. All right, Tenten said, I'll teach you a basic style. You must, however, find your own after that. Sure, Naruto replied. Following her correction, Tenten had him assume a Kenjutsu stance and then use the wooden sword to send slashes. Naruto took in the information like a sponge, and Tenten said, okay then, now I want you to do a diagonal slash just like I showed you. After Naruto completed it, Tenten gave him instructions to repeat it again and again until he had completed 100. She then continued to have him repeat them while correcting him until he was performing them perfectly. You have the technique down, Tenten said. All you need to do now is commit them to muscle memory. How do I do that? Said Naruto. You must practice it every day, Tenten said. Unfortunately, you won't find out about this for more than a month. But what if I could fit a month of practice in just one day? Smirked Naruto. What? Tenten asked. Using wooden swords, Naruto made 60 clones, who then adopted the Kenjutsu stance that Tenten had taught him. How will this help? According to Naruto, whatever the clones see, hear, or read while they're alive goes to me and all the other clones when they dispel. Really? Tenten asked, her eyes widening. Yep, Naruto replied. That's fantastic, Tenten said. You could learn everything about it in a single day with that. With a nod, Naruto remarked, that's exactly what I was thinking. The clones then began slashing, which Tenten continued to correct, and eventually she had to do less and less as the clones learned more and more. Tenten then corrected the stance of one clone, and the clone scattered, sending the information to all the other clones, who fixed their stances to all perfect forms. They dispelled in groups of 10 when she instructed them to do so, and Tenten questioned, why did you have them do that? Naruto stated, if I dispelled them all at once, then I'd have to go through all their memories and experiences at once, which could cause me a major headache or kill me. Damn, Tenten said. I'm sorry to say it, but the risk of overdoing it and dying is just not worth it. Naruto replied, yeah, but we wouldn't be shinobi without the constant threat of death looming over our heads. As Tenten put it, sadly, you're right. After that, Tenten lunged at Naruto and attempted a diagonal strike. Tenten then pulled the sword back and attempted a horizontal slash, but Naruto turned the blade upside down and placed his hand on the non-bladed part and pushed, stopping Tenten's sword in its tracks. Due to the force of his hand, Naruto pushed her sword back. After easily avoiding Tenten's subsequent blows, Naruto was able to execute all of the fundamental Kenjutsu moves. Tenten remarked, "You're getting good, Naruto. However, you haven't finished yet. You still have a great deal to learn." "All right," said Naruto. "My shadow clones appeared to have just finished the storage room." Tenten said, "It appears that your 3 hours are up," after noticing that the sun was down. "I suppose it is," said Naruto. "Tenten-san, I'll see you tomorrow." Then, to Tenten's utter surprise, Naruto levitated into the air and flew out of the yard. The following day, Naruto found Tenten glaring at him a bit when he got to the shop. "Yua, what's up Tenten-san? How did you do that?" Tenten asked. "Do what?" said Naruto. "Don't be stupid," Tenten said. "You left yesterday. You flew? How could you have flown in that manner? The elemental nation's finest wind users are limited to gliding." With a sly smile, Naruto said, "Oh, that. It wasn't particularly noteworthy. In fact, I'm shocked that you were unaware of my abilities." A mocking Tenten remarked, "Oh, because people flying is so common these days." "No," Naruto replied, "because I demonstrated my ability to fly at the Genin selection tournament a few weeks ago. I assumed it would have already made its way throughout Konoha." "Oh," Tenten said, "I wasn't there." "Really?" said Naruto. "The town was talking about it. I believe that the entire village was present." "Yeah, but Neji discouraged our team from going," Tenten said. "Since your team was the only one we knew from that tournament, he claimed that it wouldn't be worth watching if your team faced the Uchiha boys team because the result would be so clear." "So, who did you think would win?" asked Naruto. "Oh," Tenten said, "you don't want to know. You believed Sasuke's team would prevail," Naruto said, narrowing his eyes. "Why?" Tenten began to perspire a bit on her brow. "What gives you the impression that I predicted the Uchiha's team would prevail?" "Because you would have said it if you believed I would have won," Naruto said. "I assume you believed he would prevail because he was a member of the Uchiha clan." "The fact that he's a Uchiha didn't matter," Tenten stated. "You're a terrible actress, Tenten, but you're a good swordsman," Naruto said with a laugh. "His family name was the basis for your assumption. I can tell because you still refer to him by his family name even after I gave you his first name." Sighing, Tenten said, "How could you? I've been lied to my entire life, Tenten," Naruto interrupted. "Learning to tell was part of surviving. But really, Tenten, you should have learned more about my team before discounting us. Without knowing any facts, making the snap decision that Sasuke would prevail is biased and subjective, and it could get you into serious trouble." Yeah, Tenten said. "To return to my initial query, however, how was your flight?" "We all have secrets," Naruto remarked. Tenten replied, "All right. What else can you do, though, to prevent me from having a third heart attack?" After giving the question some thought, Naruto remarked, "Most weapons cannot harm me." Tenten remarked, "What are you saying? Swords and kunai can't make me bleed," declared Naruto. According to Tenten, "Prove it." "Check it," Naruto said, taking a kunai from his own and throwing it to Tenten. "Verify that it's not a fake." Tenten felt over the blade and said, "It's real." She then threw it back to Naruto, who smirked and used the kunai to stab himself in the head. Luckily, the kunai was smashed into a pancake, but Tenten suffered her third heart attack. 1 week later. The only thing that made Naruto's week at the weapon shop enjoyable was that Tenten taught him Kenjutsu while his clones performed the work, but aside from that, he was bored and wished something would happen to spice things up. Naruto spent the entire week doing the same thing over and over again. Unfortunately for him, his mental cries were heard by fate. When Naruto saw Tenten standing there in the store that day, he said, "So, Tenten, what have you guys got for me today?" Tenten replied, "Well, you gotta pick up some stuff from a neighboring town and bring it back." "Isn't this kind of thing typically saved for a D-rank mission?" asked Naruto. "Yeah, but why pay for a team of genin when we have a slave? I mean, worker, who can bench press half a ton here to deliver it for us," Tenten said with a sly grin. With narrowed eyes, Naruto said, "All right, then." Dustin's voice came from behind Naruto as he turned around and prepared to leave the store, saying, "You're leaving your partner, Naruto." Both Tenten and Naruto turned to Dustin and exclaimed, "Who?" Tenten said, "Why me, uncle?" And Dustin pointed at him, making Naruto grin evilly. "Because I said so," Dustin said. "Go now." Tenten stated, "Naruto is receiving payment for this from his debt. What do I get?" Dustin replied, You get to live under my roof rent-free for another day, now move your ass. Walking toward the door, Tenten exclaimed, this sucks. With a laugh, Naruto said, welcome to my world. Tenten led Naruto to the person they needed to see for the supplies, and they both hurried to the nearby town, which was only 30 minutes away at their speed. It turned out that the Phoenix weapon shop was running low on the metal ore they needed to make their weapons, and they had to pick it up from that town. As he made his way to where the supplies were, Naruto remarked, it can't be that heavy. After 10 minutes beneath a mountain of pure metal ore, Naruto grunted, me and my big mouth. Tenten laughed at Naruto as he walked in front of him and said, come on, it's just a bit farther. With a grunt, Naruto said, whatever. Tenten stopped suddenly after they had been walking for a while, and Naruto looked up, asking, what's wrong? With her eyes narrowed, Tenten uttered, someone's watching us. What are you talking about? Asked Naruto. There's no one I sense. Tenten was about to respond when someone shouted, water style, water wave jutsu. Tenten swiftly drew out a kunai and hurled it at the location where the jutsu originated, but she didn't hear it pass through anything. Tenten jumped away as a stream of water shot at her original location. Tenten narrowed her eyes and said, who are you? 3 water.nin with slashes on their headbands landed around Tenten. We're just your friendly neighborhood thieves, said one of them, the man Tenten thought was their leader. Now give us this metal ore and all of your money, and we might release you. How about this? Tenten asked. Maybe I won't shove a kunai where the sun doesn't shine, but you all turn around and go away, never to bother us again. We were just gonna leave you alone, but I guess that some stuff just doesn't go according to plan, the leader said, squinting his eyes. All 3 of them performed the water wave jutsu, aiming it at Tenten, who jumped over it and landed on the metal ore cube, causing Naruto to grunt in increased pain. Tenten sheepishly said, sorry, Naruto. The leader began doing hand seals, and Tenten jumped out of the way as another water wave jutsu rushed over where she had been before. Tenten pulled out a kunai and threw it at them, scattering them. When Tenten saw that the 3 ninja were preparing to throw a volley of kunai at her, she drew her sword and stood ready, slicing through 2 of them before the final one struck her in the leg, causing her to scream in agony and drop her sword. When the 3 ninja saw this, they drew more kunai and hurled them at a helpless Tenten, who was on the verge of being skewered, but was saved by Naruto shaking the cube in time, causing Tenten to fall on her back and the kunai to pass over her without hurting her. Tenten was wondering what the devil had happened when the metal ore cube suddenly shot 20 feet into the air, but before she hit the ground, she heard someone shout, Shadow Clone Jutsu. Before, there was just one Naruto holding the cube up, but now there are 20, and the original Naruto flew up to Tenten, leaving his clones to hold the cube up, saying, Tenten-chan, are you okay? I think I'll live, Tenten said. I don't believe the kunai experienced any life-threatening situations. With the exception of your leg, Naruto said, narrowing his eyes. Hold on, I'll take care of these 3 jackasses. As the 3 water nin began to tremble in their boots, Naruto floated down beside them. Boss, T. That guy was just flying, exclaimed one of the nameless flunkies. He was carrying the metal ore, so forget about that, the other nameless flunky said. Using only his hands. I believe we should run, boss. It's no problem, said the leader, who was about to go to the bathroom. You mean it's just one person? You know, I haven't really had much experience with this jutsu, Naruto remarked. But I think I'll use it because you 3 are weaklings. The Reiki sword. The water nin leader launched another water wave at Naruto as he held out his hand, and a blue Reiki sword materialized in it. Naruto then charged forward, shocking the nin by slicing through the attack with the Reiki sword in front of him. After reaching the leader, who brandished a kunai and attempted to engage Naruto in combat, Naruto attempted a vertical slash but the leader blocked it, and Naruto quickly sidestepped the leader's attempt to cut him before slicing the man's leg, knocking him to one knee, and then slicing open his chest to keep him out of the fray. The other 2 flunkies, to Naruto's left and right, charge him simultaneously. The left one jumps and tries to grab his head, while the right one slides down and tries to grab his feet. Naruto waits for the right opportunity, then turns to his left and performs a backflip, flipping over the one that attempted to cut his foot and nailing the one that attempted to grab his head in the chin. You were the one who hit Tenten-chan with that kunai, Naruto said, swiftly slicing the man in the stomach with his Reiki sword, leaving only one man standing. You'll pay for it now. Naruto charged the final flunky after he had fully charged in Super Saiyan. The flunky turned and attempted to flee, but before he could get far, he felt Naruto's Reiki sword pierce his leg, and Naruto threw the Reiki sword aside, leaving the wound's blood to flow freely. Ignoring the cries of the men, Naruto flew up to where his clones were still holding the metal ore, and when he saw that Tenten had bandaged her wound, he said, Tenten-chan, are you able to get up? There's a kunai in my leg, Tenten remarked mockingly. Yes, I am capable of performing the can-can. Get a mini skirt and I'd pay to see that, said Naruto with a sly smile. Despite his red face, Tenten yelled, just shut up and get us back to the village. All right, then, Naruto said. Hold on. Tenten's head was rubbing against Naruto's body as they flew back to the village, and she blushed unconsciously as she looked at him and thought, he looks hot with blonde hair. Wait a minute, what am I thinking? Naruto grabbed Tenten and held her bridal style. Unaware of Tenten's blushing, Naruto continued to fly in the direction of the village, flew to the weapon shop, instructed his clones to drop their load there, and then proceeded to the hospital, kicked down the door, and exclaimed, she needs help. One of the passing physicians remarked, so she loves demons. Why should we assist her? She ought to pass away with you. Naruto made a shadow clone in an instant, gave Tenten to the clone, made a spirit sword, and hurried forward to place it beneath the man's throat before threateningly declaring, because if she dies, so do all of you. Now, heal her, please. After speaking with Naruto, the doctor hurried to pick up Tenten, took her to the operating table, and treated her leg medically while Naruto watched over him and threatened him. After the procedure, Tenten's leg was fine, but the doctor advised her to avoid it for a few days. Naruto picked her back up and left the hospital. Tenten said, Naruto-kun, why did he say that stuff? After they left the hospital. In a tone that told her to stop talking, Naruto said, Tenten-chan, there are some things better left unsaid. Tenten was still considering what he meant, but she was smart enough to keep her mouth shut. Naruto carried her home and to her bed, and then he left the shop, saying he would return the following day. After 2 weeks, Naruto and Tenten had become much closer since Naruto had taken her to the hospital. Tenten had learned to appreciate Naruto's borderline obsession with weapons, and Naruto had learned to appreciate Tenten's borderline obsession with ramen, fire, and things that go, boom. Tenten also demonstrated an increasing amount of trustworthiness in Naruto's eyes, to the point where he frequently considered telling her about his demonic and alien ancestry and the Kyuubi. Hello Naruto-kun, Tenten said as she waited for Naruto behind the counter on his last day of employment at the weapon shop. How are you today? Naruto replied, as fine as I can be in a village full of people who hate me, Tenten-chan. With a laugh, Tenten remarked, you always say that when I ask you how you are. I always do that because it's true, Naruto remarked. What must I do today, then? Tenten stated, today we have to deliver their orders to the Junin around the village. Before the end of the day, we need to fulfill 20 orders. The sword will be yours if you do that. It sounds fairly simple, Naruto remarked. Let's leave. The task was fairly straightforward. Go around town, find the Junin, and give them their orders. Tenten then escorted Naruto out the door and around the village. Everything was going quite well until they reached the last name on the list, Kakashi Hitaki. When Naruto and Tenten arrived at Kakashi's house, they noticed a note that read, Training Team, written on the door. Come to Training Ground 7 if you need me. Tenten remarked, a team being trained? That's strange. How? Said Naruto. Tenten stated, Guy. Sensei informed us that Kakashi has not performed well on any of the teams to which he was assigned. How is he going to train a team? I don't know, shrugged Naruto. However, let's locate him and learn more. Now I remember his name. He was the sensei of one of the failing teams. But whose team was he a sensei of? Thought Naruto as he and Tenten went to Training Ground 7 to listen to Kakashi coaching his team through a teamwork exercise. They saw Kakashi putting Sakura, Sasuke, and Kiba through some drills after clearing the shrubbery, and Naruto thought, damn it. In his mind, a voice screamed back just as loudly, God damn it, some of us are trying to sleep. Sorry, Gramps. I didn't realize you old geezers enjoyed sleeping. Naruto retorted, no worries, you're ancient and passed, old, years ago. Like that old human you, affectionately, call, Grandpa. The Kyuubi said, hearing his daughter chuckle at her son's joke. No, he's antique. He's like you, but useful, Naruto retorted. Naruto's obvious disregard for the Kyuubi made Kushina laugh uncontrollably, but the Kyuubi only complained. Tenten asked, what's wrong? After noticing Naruto's sour expression outside of his head. Naruto stated, Sasuke, S.A. Genin. I swear, he always finds a way to come back. He's like a fucking cockroach. What's the beef between you and him? Asked Tenten. Naruto sighed and replied, you don't want to know. Let's just finish this order and get out of here. The less time I spend around Sasuke, the better. Okay, Tenten said, but I want an explanation later. Tenten and Naruto hurried up to Kakashi. Naruto replied quickly, Kakashi-san. We're here to deliver your order from the Phoenix Weapon Shop. Naruto turned around and pressed the package in his hands before Kakashi could speak. Before Sasuke realized who he was and called out, "Dobi." He had already left half of the clearing. In a whisper, Naruto said, "Damn it, almost made it." "What do you want, Sasuke?" asked Naruto as he turned around. Smirking, Sasuke remarked, "So you're a delivery boy now? I knew you would never make it as a genin." Sakura stated, "I knew him and his entire team were worthless. They don't deserve to be on your level, Sasuke-kun." Naruto replied, "Sasuke, I do not have the time to deal with your ego right now. Come on Tenten-chan, let's go." Kiba screamed. "You just called her Tenten-chan. You're cheating on Hinata-chan. I knew you were no good, you slimy snake." Tenten was saying, "Naruto-kun is a good friend of mine, who just happens to be male. You could have a female friend outside of this flat-chested bitch too, but you probably chase them all away like a fucking horn dog." "What did you say?" asked Sakura. "You heard me," Tenten exclaimed. Sasuke replied, "As if you're any better. I can tell from how you are right now that you're nothing. You're nothing but a weak, talentless bitch who hides behind her teammates' power. All the training and learning in the world won't change the fact that you're talentless and always will be. You'll only ever be good for one thing, and that's as a breeding factory." It seemed like Sasuke struck a vulnerable spot. According to Sasuke, the venom and sting caused Tenten to freeze. All she could do was turn away and flee, sobbing all the way. Naruto became enraged when he saw his friend crying. He made a shadow clone to pursue her, and Naruto, demonstrating his mastery of Super Saiyan, instantly charged to full power, ran to Sasuke, and punched him in the face before kicking him into the air and landing him in the pond close to the training ground. Sasuke was caught by Naruto after he ran over there, grabbed him by the shirt, and threw him back to the training ground while throwing a few trees. "If you ever insult someone who's precious to me like that again, I promise that I will kill you, and leave not so much as an ash behind," Naruto said as he strangled Sasuke to death. Subsequently, Naruto struck Sasuke so forcefully in the stomach that he began to cough up blood. Then Naruto started off in the same direction as his clone. Sakura rushed to Sasuke's body and shouted, "Aren't you gonna do anything?" when she noticed Kakashi was not acting. Kakashi replied, "Sasuke never should have said something like that. That was long overdue in my eyes." Naruto discovered Tenten's location by using his erased clone's memory. Tenten was sobbing on her bed in her room. In her hour of need, Naruto approached her and offered her consolation. Tenten's sobbing was beginning to stop 10 minutes later. Naruto was saying, "Tenten-chan, why did you let what he said get to you so much?" Tenten stated, "All my life I've been trying to change people's views on kunoichi. Kunoichi these days care more about their looks than their skills. I've been working on my skills day in and day out for years, trying to be like Tsunade Senju of the Sannin, but it seems that no matter how hard I try, no one will ever respect me in this job." Naruto replied, "You've gained the respect of one shinobi, I know." "Who?" Tenten asked. Naruto replied, "Me. You've earned my respect 1,000 times over, Tenten-chan. I thought that Hinata-chan was the only kunoichi who took her training seriously, but you train just as hard as she does. You've become proficient with at least 10 different weapons. Tenten-chan, you're a better kunoichi than you think. And I know that if you keep going, you can actually give aspiring kunoichi a real role model." Tenten asked, "What about Tsunade-sama?" as her sniffling began to lessen. Naruto replied, "You mean that drunken old gambler? Yeah, that's a real role model. Look girls, train hard and dream big, and you can become as bad a gambler as I am." Tenten chuckled when Naruto mimicked Tsunade. Naruto was saying, "Seriously Ten-chan, Tsunade is not that good of a role model. You can give women a real idol to look up to, and you can count on me to support you." After giving Naruto a hug, Tenten said, "Thanks, Naruto-kun." Naruto replied, "No problem, Ten-chan. Now I gotta get home and get some sleep. I got a lot of D ranks to finish up tomorrow. See y'all later." "Where are you going? Don't you remember the sword?" Tenten asked Naruto as he approached the door before he could exit. With a sideways head tilt and a sheepish scratch of his face, Naruto said, "Oh yeah, I forgot." As Tenten put it, "Come on." Tenten entered the storage room and emerged with a sword after they went downstairs. The sword featured a green gem in the pommel and a black handle. With yellow lines running down it, the sword's guard rose up in an arc. The sword's total length was 4 feet, including the 3-foot blade and 1-foot handle. An. Zelda. wikia.com/wiki/ultimate_sword. This is the ultimate sword from Legend of Zelda, but the hilt is black and yellow rather than yellow and black. As Tenten asked, "Do you like it?" Naruto gazed in awe at the sword. "I love it." Naruto said, "Thanks, Ten-chan." Tenten replied, "No problem. Thank you for helping around the store for a month. So I guess I'll see you later then." Naruto laughed and replied, "Sure. How about you come to Training Ground 8 sometime and train with me? My kenjutsu skills still need some work." "Great. How about tomorrow?" Tenten asked. In response, Naruto said, "That's fine with me." Then, eager for tomorrow, Naruto left the store and took off for home. For the first time, Naruto woke up this morning without the sun shining in his eyes. He walked to his room's window and peered out. Naruto had a strange feeling as he gazed out at the village that would one day be his. He was at ease. He was at peace. With only one thought in his mind, Naruto hastily dressed and departed his home. "I have a feeling that today will be a good day, but I'm not sure what it is." Naruto would have stayed home and hidden beneath his bed if he had known what was going to happen today. Naruto chose to walk to his training ground because it was so serene. He heard a familiar voice shout, "Naruto-kun," as he was strolling. Naruto turned and noticed Tenten running up behind him. Unbeknownst to him, Naruto smiled a little. "Ready to go, Ten-chan?" he asked. At Naruto's moniker for her, Tenten grinned and replied, "Sure." During the walk to the training ground, they were both chatting away. As was customary, Shino and Hinata were already there and working out on their own when they arrived. Naruto said, "Okay then, let's get started," after noticing that everyone had already begun. In response, Tenten drew her sword and charged at Naruto. After drawing his own sword, Naruto deflected her blow. Tenten leapt back and attempted a slash at Naruto's knees after lifting her knee and striking him in the stomach. Jumping sideways, Naruto attempted to strike Tenten in the shoulder. Tenten, however, was too quick. She kicked him in the stomach after swiftly rolling to the side and falling under his attack. All of Naruto's blows had been effortlessly sidestepped after a few more. Naruto leapt back and attempted to slash her, but Tenten chose to end his agony with a swift slash to the knees. The issue was that Naruto wasn't skilled enough to strike her. Tenten struck Naruto's hand with the pommel of her sword, causing him to drop the weapon. Tenten assumed it would end there, but Naruto charged her without a weapon. He was running when all of a sudden gravity took over. Naruto was in a hurry to attack Tenten and was unaware that his sword was in the way. Tenten went with Naruto when he stumbled over his sword and fell. Tenten began to snicker as they hit the floor. Naruto began to chuckle at her snickering, which soon turned into full-fledged laughter. Shino and Hinata, who were unaware of Tenten's presence, were drawn to their laughter. Sadly, Shino and Hinata noticed something that Tenten and Naruto did not. When Shino saw this, he wondered, what will Hinata think of this? There was only one thought going through Hinata's head when she saw how these two were lying. Who exactly is this slut? Tenten attempted to stand up after her laughter subsided, but she discovered Naruto was blocking her path. She then blushed fiercely as she saw the position they were in. Until Tenten cleared her throat, Naruto continued to laugh without listening to anything else. Naruto leapt nearly 10 feet into the air after realizing their position by looking down. Then, with a slight flush on his face, Naruto turned away, followed by Tenten. Looking to his right, Naruto saw Shino standing there with a ghostly smile on his face after hearing someone clear their throat. To make matters worse, Hinata was standing there, her arms folded, her glare promising him pain. "Oh shish. Naruto thought as he met Hinata's eyes, she will kill me." With trepidation, Naruto blurted out, "Tenten-chan, meet my team members. This is Shino." Tenten shook Shino's hand and said hello to him. Then, using the same tone, Naruto said, "This is Hinata-chan, my girlfriend." At Naruto's words, Tenten, who was grinning, stopped smiling. "I didn't realize he had a girlfriend." Tenten quickly concealed her emotions and greeted the hesitant Hinata. Naruto was saying, "Tenten-chan here is helping me with my kenjutsu. Apparently I need a lot of work." According to Tenten, that's putting it mildly. Turning back to his girlfriend, Naruto said, "She could probably give you some pointers on your sword style too." He then turned to Tenten and sarcastically said, "Haha. What makes him think this bimbo could teach me anything?" Hinata asked herself. What Hinata said was, "That's a pretty big, probably, Naruto-kun." "Exactly what do you mean by that?" Tenten said, squinting. Hinata's slight smile revealed the malevolent tone of her speech. "Well, Naruto-kun and I don't exactly fight the same. If we did fight, you could end up hurt." Tenten's expression changed to resemble Hinata's. I'm not so sure about that. As Shino listened to their conversation, he could quickly ascertain the true meanings of their words. He turned to face Naruto and noticed that he was grinning as he observed them. I'm not surprised by that. He believes they get along well. That ignorant fool, poor thing. Hinata replied, I have my sword with me, how about a friendly spar? According to Tenten, I would love that. The two girls drew their swords and took a step back from one another. Naruto was thinking, okay, this is great, as they were retreating. 10. Shan is getting along well with Hina. Shan. This would be a good day, I knew. Hinata charged Tenten to start the fight. Hinata lowered her sword to her hip and held it with the tip pointing toward the ground. Hinata turned the sword so the edge was facing up as she approached Tenten, preparing to slit Tenten in half vertically. Tenten was prepared to thwart the attack, with her sword already at chest height. Hinata leapt to the left and swung her sword up before she could raise it, aiming it straight at Tenten's neck. Tenten was prepared to block the blade, but she was taken aback by the sideways leap. She just managed to raise her blade in time to block it. Tenten forced Hinata back a bit by bringing her leg up and burying her knee in her stomach. Tenten moved forward, aiming for Hinata's stomach with a horizontal slash of her sword. After dodging the attack by jumping back, Hinata leapt forward to attempt a diagonal slash. Tenten pushed Hinata back and easily blocked the attack. After that, Tenten kicked out, catching Hinata in the side. Their battle quickly turned into a fistfight after the swords were thrown away. Tenten and Hinata appeared to be on par with each other in speed. Tenten dodged all of Hinata's blows, and Hinata dodged Tenten's blows. Tenten eventually hit Hinata in the stomach, and Hinata eventually hit Tenten in the side. A bruise developed as a result of both strikes. Kurenai came before more could be formed. Kurenai gave the 4 team members a set of training exercises to complete. According to Kurenai, today, we'll start off with a light jog around the clearing. I think 10 should be okay. The 4 of them began to jog. Naruto spoke lightly to Shino while keeping up with him. Hinata and Tenten were much higher up. They were initially keeping up with one another. When Hinata noticed this, she made the decision to move slightly forward. Tenten narrowed her eyes slightly at this. Tenten picked up her pace and overtook Hinata. When Hinata noticed this, she moved ahead of Tenten. What began as a light jog quickly escalated into a full-on sprint. They were putting in their best effort and keeping up with one another around lap 2. Both girls began to perspire and grow weary at lap 5, feeling as though their jackets were keeping them in place. Hinata tossed her jacket aside after unzipping it. She had on a tight black t-shirt underneath it. Tenten began to fall behind Hinata in the race. What the devil? All I was doing was following her. Tenten's chest constricted, and she became aware that her vest was preventing her from breathing as freely as she could. Tenten undid the buttons on her shirt, revealing her midriff under her white t-shirt. Tenten quickly caught up to Hinata after that. Naruto paused to watch the girls race, only to be given a slap in the face. Damn, in what location did the girls conceal those? Naruto was understandably taken aback. Tenten and Hinata were well off. They were likely the most endowed of their age group, but for some reason their vests and jackets had the special ability to conceal them and make them appear normal. Tenten's appeared to better highlight her curves, while Hinata's were slightly larger. It was simple to understand why Naruto was using his eyes to essentially undress the girls as he watched them compete in a foot race. After all, he's a man. He heard his mother laugh in his mind. Naru. Sochi, you're drooling. Naruto closed his mouth and began to flush. His eyes strayed to Shino, who was gazing at the same object as him. Hey! Stop staring at them, you pervert, he said, slapping Shino in the shoulder. This coming from the guy who was drooling a second ago, Shino said, adjusting his shades. Naruto made the decision to keep quiet and observe the race. Hinata eventually overtook her opponent to win. The genin were then instructed to practice their taijutsu by Kurenai. Naruto sat down on the ground as Kurenai began sparring with Shino. A whirlpool of energy surrounded Naruto as he began to focus his energy. Tenten and Hinata were observing him during this time. As his energy continued to increase, Naruto began to growl. Naruto's power kept growing as he swiftly advanced to Super Saiyan. The wind ripped his shirt off as the power increased, revealing his toned chest to the outside world. Naruto finally yelled loudly and entered his Super Saiyan 2 state. To test his skills in this form, Naruto got up and began kicking and punching. Later, Naruto sensed that he was being watched. He turned around and noticed that Tenten and Hinata were both staring at him uncomfortably. My body feels like a piece of meat. My baby boy is only 13 years old and already has 2 girls after him, Kushina thought to himself. He will become as much of a pervert as Jiraiya. Naruto was saying, Tenten. Shan, Hinata. Shan, why are you two staring at me like that? Before realizing that one of the two girls was doing it, they both noticed that they were staring at Naruto like ravenous jackals. As Naruto excused himself to go, they both began glaring at one another. Okay girls, I'm gonna see how fast I can fly around the planet. The two girls were left to glare at one another as Naruto bounded up and left the area like a bat out of hell. 30 minutes later, he came back to find the girls still glaring at one another. Kurenai eventually instructed them to switch to kunai throwing. Hinata landed 9 out of 10 of her kunai when they first started. Hinata turned to Tenten after landing them and sarcastically remarked, "Good luck beating that." Smirking, Tenten remarked, "I can easily do that." The same idea was going through both of the girls' heads. I will not be defeated by that slut. Why are you competing with her? Tenten heard a voice in the back of her mind. Tenten countered, she initiated it. My kenjutsu was insulted by her. You ever think that maybe that's not why you're arguing? The voice responded. Why not? On account of Naruto. How about him? Observe him. Tenten nearly burst into tears as she turned to face Naruto. Naruto hadn't put on a shirt since returning from what was allegedly around the world flight. Tenten and everyone else in the clearing could see his upper body clearly. Why the hell didn't I see that before? Tenten thought. Hold on, what on earth did I just think? That you're interested in seeing what's underneath those trousers. What? I'll take care of this later. Tenten pulled her headband loose, covered her eyes, and pulled it tight. She gathered up 10 kunai and tossed them all at once. They all landed in dead center. Damn. Good job, Tenten. Shan, exclaimed Naruto. Tenten returned her headband to her forehead after loosening it. I guess those, seeing eyes of yours didn't help you see the target, she said, turning to Hinata. I'm getting tired of you, bitch, exclaimed Hinata in a fit of rage. Naruto's head whipped to Hinata as his eyes widened in surprise. What? He spluttered out. What do you know? Same here, Tenten said, squinting her eyes. Tenten produced 2 kunai as Hinata began to channel ki into her hands. Only Naruto and Kurenai's intervention prevented the two girls from harming one another after they began to walk toward one another. As they kicked and screamed about how they would maim each other, Naruto grabbed Hinata and Kurenai grabbed Tenten. Kurenai shouted, that's it, training's over. Naruto, get Hinata out of here, while holding Tenten back. Hinata began to be pulled back and out of the training ground by Naruto. Hina. Shan, what the hell was that back there? Why were you trying to hurt Tenten? Shan. Naruto exclaimed as they fled. Hinata replied, that bitch started it. I'm just finishing it. Naruto replied, but you're the one who called her a bitch first. Hinata replied, W. What, you're taking her side? You're my boyfriend, you're supposed to support me? Naruto replied, Hina. Shan, you called her a bitch for no reason. As Hinata opened her mouth to continue, she met Naruto's gaze. That look. When he defends me, he gets the same expression. It's unbelievable that he finds that whore attractive. Hinata turned away and began to leave, muttering, I can't believe this. She began looking for Tenten's key, then began to walk in its direction. Upon arriving, she witnessed Tenten entering her home. I can't believe it, Tenten thought as she entered her uncle's store and took a seat at the counter. That bitch is attacking me like that. What the fuck does she think? She is fortunate that I did not thrust a kunai into her eye. But why was I thinking about Naruto-kun at the moment? I'll skin that slut later. Maybe the same reason you just called him Naruto-kun, the inner voice retorted. I can't possibly like Naruto-kun, he has a romantic partner. He's even more attractive because of that. In any case, what would I like about him? That blonde, spiky, stupid hair of his. That dumb grin of his. The way he inspires me to pursue my goals. His divinely endowed muscles. What a waste. It's unbelievable. Actually, Naruto-kun is attracting me. When Tenten sighed loudly, he thought, but he's dating that bitch. Having trouble, honey? Her uncle said behind her. I think that. Tenten said, leaping into the air, it's Naruto-kun uncle. You're attracted to him, aren't you? Asked Dustin. Tenten was taken aback. How do you know? She asked. Dustin replied, you really didn't do anything to hide it. You blushed every time he came around. You would have had to be an idiot not to notice, but what about it? Did you know he had a girlfriend? Asked Tenten. I knew, and I ask again, what about it? Said Dustin. With a dejected expression, Tenten stated, I can't be with Naruto-kun if he's already in a relationship. Dustin replied, "Who said the relationship will last, though?" Tenten asked, "What do you mean?" after giving her uncle a strange look. Dustin responded, "Not all relationships last. Are you gonna just give up on Naruto because he's with some other girl? When their relationship ends, what will happen then?" With a loud sigh, Tenten declared, "You're awful, uncle. I'm leaving." Tenten ran into Hinata after leaving the store. "What do you want?" Tenten asked, her eyes narrowing as she saw her. Hinata's eyes narrowed, but she calmed herself by inhaling deeply. She replied, "I don't know your connection to Naruto or how deep your feelings for him are. But let's make one thing clear. You have feelings for Naruto-kun and I know about it. But Naruto Uzumaki is my man, not yours. From the top of his head to the bottom of his feet, he is mine. I was the one who was there for him every second of his life, and I will continue to be for the rest of it. I know that Naruto-kun likes you, so for his sake I won't hurt you. But let's make one thing clear. If you want my boyfriend, you're gonna have to fight me for him, and that is one fight you won't win," Hinata said, stepping closer to Tenten and narrowing her eyes a little. Tenten widened her eyes as she said, "Too bad for you, that decision isn't yours to make. It's up to Naruto-kun. I know that he likes you, so for him, I'll ease up. But the second you mess up, I'll take my chance." After saying that, Tenten turned away from Hinata and left her to think about what she had said. With Naruto was perplexed when Hinata abandoned him. Before leaving, Hinata muttered, "I can't believe this. Why? Why did she feel so angry? What caused her and Tenten to argue? Because Naruto had a lot to figure out. He went to the same place he always went to solve problems. He visited the ramen shop in Ichiraku. Naruto kept wondering what he could do while he sat there eating dinner. If only I could comprehend women's minds." Naruto froze in midair after using his chopsticks to pick up a bunch of noodles. Naruto became aware that he knew the answer to the query. "Mom." "Ah," was Kushina's response. "Naru. Sochi, you don't have to yell. I can hear you just fine. I have a question for you, Mom. You want my help in explaining what happened between Hinata-chan and Tenten-chan?" "Yes, how did, son, everything you see, I do too, and I mean everything." "All right, can you assist me?" With a smile, Kushina replied, "No." "What? I'm not gonna help you. Figure this one out on your own." "Thanks a lot, Mom," thought Naruto mockingly. "Anytime, Sochi." After eating his ramen furiously, Naruto started to head home. Naruto was on his way when he heard a familiar voice calling his name. He saw his friend Ino when he turned around. "Hey Ino." "Hello Naruto. How are you?" said Ino. Naruto smiled and replied, "I'm fine. How are you doing with the training schedule me and Hina-chan gave you?" Naruto, Hinata, and Ino met a few days following the Genin tournament to create a training schedule for Ino. After thanking them, Ino set to work on it with diligence. Naruto discussed Ino's progress on it with Shikamaru a short while later. Ino never skipped a day with it, according to Shikamaru. Ino replied, "I'm doing fine, thanks again. But I need your help. I'm trying to go over the academy's taijutsu style, but I need a sparring partner." "I'll help." Naruto shrugged, adding, "I don't have anything to do today anyway." Both Naruto and Ino went off to a nearby training facility. Naruto greeted them with the words, "Okay Ino-chan, get into the academy taijutsu stance." Naruto moved toward Ino as she went into the stance. He responded with, "You have it wrong, Ino-chan." Then Naruto took hold of her elbow and the base of her forearm. He pulled his elbow down and thrust his forearm in. "Your arm is too stretched out. You won't be able to get the proper amount of power into your punches." Then, grabbing one of her legs, Naruto fell to his knees. He said, "Your legs aren't spread enough to move quickly," and pulled it out to a different position. With a sly grin, Ino said, "Wow Naruto-kun. Any higher and you would have owed me dinner." She blushed at the intimate contact. After hearing Ino's statement, Naruto became perplexed until he noticed that he had placed one of his hands on her lower thigh. Naruto began to flush and swiftly withdrew his hand. At his blush, Ino burst out laughing and remarked, "I'm kidding Naruto-kun." With a slight pout, Naruto commanded, "Stop it." He said, "Come on, let's keep going." With a quiet nod, Naruto began sparring with him. Naruto proposed that they take a break after they had been sparring for 20 minutes. "Phew," said Naruto, sitting on the ground, "that felt good. I like seeing that you could keep going the entire time." With the same sly smile, Ino remarked, "I think you like seeing me all hot and wet like this more." As Ino began to laugh at him, Naruto blushed once more at her innuendo. "Why do you keep teasing me so much?" asked Naruto. Because seeing your reactions is so funny, Ino said, laughing. Naruto replied, whatever Ino-chan. Well, you got a good grasp on the fighting style. All you need is experience. After stopping his laughter, Ino remarked, thank you so much, Naruto-kun. I'll find a way to repay you someday. Naruto began to shake his head and wave his hands. No, you don't need to. I don't want you to. When Ino became angry, her head grew 10 times larger than before. She said, well, too bad, I want to. You'll take what I give you and like it. Fearfully, Naruto replied, yes, Ino-chan. After her head returned to its normal size, Ino exclaimed, good. Now I'm about to go home. Good night, Naruto-kun. After giving Naruto a quick peck on the cheek, Ino turned to leave. As she walked away, Naruto gazed at her and absently touched the spot where she had kissed him. Naruto's eyes widened to the size of dinner plates as Ino began to sway her hips as she walked, sensing his gaze on her. Her ass is better than Hina-chan's or Ten-chan's, Naruto thought, his jaw drifting southward. In his mind, he could hear his mother laughing loudly. She stated, Shochi, you're drooling again. In a hurry to get home before anything else happened to him, Naruto closed his mouth and flew. Naruto hurried home and shut the door. Naruto then made the decision to attempt to develop both his Super Saiyan form and his demonic chakra. Naruto tried to meditate after sitting down, but he was unable to focus. Pictures of Tenten, Hinata, and Ino were all over it. Even in his dreams, his thoughts remained that way throughout the night. 2 weeks. It had been 2 weeks since Hinata Hyuga and Tenten met. Naruto Uzumaki was left in the middle of what was supposed to be a straightforward meeting that descended into a physical altercation. The girls ignored Naruto's repeated attempts to persuade them to make amends. Unfortunately, it turned into a brawl between Hinata and Naruto. I would be lying if I claimed that their problems were resolved. Hinata and Naruto were still silent. Hinata wasn't talking to Naruto, though. Hinata wasn't in the mood to assist Naruto, and he still didn't know what the issue was. Since she wasn't talking to him, he made the decision to focus entirely on his training, particularly on his Reiki techniques. He became increasingly skilled with the Reiki gun. He was now able to fire 8 shots every day. He also began to become increasingly skilled with both his Reiki sword and his sword. He was able to match most swords with his increasingly dense Reiki sword. He was also improving his Kenjutsu. Tenten claimed to be nearly finished mastering the basic style based on his comments. Naruto made the decision to get to his training ground early this morning in order to practice a little. Naruto entered his mindscape, sat down, and began to meditate. Since the last time, Naruto has made the decision to alter his mindscape. Until Naruto or Kushina made the decision to create something, it was essentially a white void rather than a damp cage. Kushina was a frequent visitor to her son's mindscape, so some aspects of it were altered to accommodate her. However, Naruto discovered that his mind was entirely distinct from the outside world after further experimenting with the mindscape. He never ran out of energy while he was there, for instance. He also didn't have to sleep, eat, drink, or use the restroom. He also had the ability to change his healing factor from almost non-existent to instantaneous cellular regeneration. These elements combined to make his mindscape practically designed for training. Naruto created a dojo when he got to his mindscape. Naruto created 10 shadow clones at the dojo. Naruto was encircled by the shadow clones as they leapt back. All of the clones formed a Reiki sword and charged Naruto at an invisible signal. Naruto jumped over the one in front of him after waiting until the very last second. After reversing direction, Naruto fired a Reiki gun at the clone. The clone chose to use one of his new techniques rather than leaping out of the way. The clone raised its hands and swung its Reiki sword. The clone appeared to have stopped the blast with its bare hands, but in reality, a thick layer of Reiki covering its hands prevented the blast. The clone then sent it spiraling back to Naruto, reversing the technique. Naruto swiftly fashioned a Reiki sword and cut the Reiki gun attack in half with it. Then Naruto leapt to great heights and landed on his clone. Both Naruto's and the clone's Reiki swords were crushed by the additional force of gravity. A Reiki gun blast was now present where the clone's head had been when Naruto twisted to strike it with a heel kick. As it happens, in order to get to Naruto, another clone chose to blast through one of its brothers. The pain of a Reiki gun blast to the foot is obvious to anyone who is not a genius. Naruto chose to levitate in place until his foot healed because he could hardly bear any weight on it. The subsequent clone of Naruto chose to rush him and use taijutsu on him. Rushing forward, the clone kicked Naruto in the head. The clone dispelled when Naruto kicked it and twisted it, using the momentum from the kick. Naruto heard a cry from behind him before he could take any action. Spirit shot. Like lightning, Naruto spun around and neutralized the spirit shot with a Reiki gun. Then, instead of holding an imaginary gun, Naruto's hand became an open palm. Then Naruto shouted, "Spirit shot." Another Reiki gun confronted the black ball of energy as it sailed forward. They cancelled each other out just as before. Naruto was hit in the face by a Reiki gun blast as he flew forward in the hopes of getting the drop on the clone. Naruto's face was severely burned by the blast, which also caused him to collide with the dojo's wall. Aiming a second Reiki gun at the first shadow. I must keep that in mind. With the damage from the Reiki gun already beginning to heal, Naruto got back to his feet. Fortunately, I can increase my healing factor here. It would have taken a month to heal otherwise. Naruto saw another Reiki gun blast come at him, so he held his hand out and used Reiki to reinforce it, catching the blast. Still clutching the blast like a baseball, Naruto charged forward. When Naruto noticed one of his clones attempting a sweep, he leapt over it and fired a Reiki gun blast at it with his empty hand. Naruto hurled the Reiki gun blast he was holding at the clone that had fired it at him as he landed. He supported it with his own Reiki gun blast. The clone's attempt at a Reiki shield was easily defeated when the two attacks collided and combined. However, Naruto had little time to relax because a clone's Reiki sword cut his back. To give himself some space to think, Naruto leapt forward and rolled away from the clone, only to clash with another clone. Naruto pushed his clone's Reiki sword back when he noticed another one approaching. After cutting the clone through the middle, he had to use a Reiki shield to protect his hand from the next clone's sword. With a Reiki sword in his hand, he aimed it at the clone's stomach. With haste, Naruto thrust the sword through the clone's abdomen. When Naruto looked up, he saw a clone in the air with its sword poised to strike him after a shadow passed over him. In an attempt to block, Naruto raised his Reiki sword, but both it and the clones were shattered. After landing, the clone kicked Naruto back after kneeing him in the stomach. To add more force to its downward slash, the clone reformed its Reiki sword and leapt into the air. After dodging the slash by rolling back, Naruto covered his foot with ki and kicked the clone in the head, dispelling it. Naruto glanced around before leaping to his feet to dodge a clone's sword slash. After flipping and landing, Naruto screamed, "Bullet shot," and covered his index finger in ki. An endless number of them immediately followed Naruto's tiny ki bullet, which he fired at the clone. In a flash, the clone wrapped his hands in a Reiki shield and began to block every shot. Naruto fired a spirit shot at the clone's feet with his other hand. A lot of dirt was kicked up by the blast, which provided Naruto with cover as he rushed past the clone's defenses and punched it in the stomach. Inhaling deeply, Naruto thought, 7 down, 3 to go. When Naruto hurried past another clone, the clone fired a Reiki gun at his feet, forcing him to jump. The clone was gone when Naruto touched down. Naruto felt a fist strike the back of his head just as he turned to look for the clone. One of his clones had already created a Reiki sword and was swinging it at Naruto's head when he turned around. Although Naruto ducked to avoid it, he was still kicked in the face by another clone. The kick knocked Naruto back, but he quickly got up and rolled over. Naruto was about to fire a Reiki gun when he heard 3 words that chilled him to the bone. Spirit tag, ignite. A faint yellow glow emanated from the space dead center between Naruto's eyes, and he fixed his gaze on it. "You gotta be kidding," he muttered as he noticed the glow growing. Before the spirit tag exploded and nearly tore his face apart, that was the furthest he could go. Half of Naruto's eyes were vaporized as he got to his feet. He had lost his nose entirely, also exposed to the air were the bones of his face. When Naruto realized he could only see 2 clones, he leapt away from them to gain some space while he waited for the wound to heal. As Naruto turned to look for the final one, he felt a hand seize his ankles. When Naruto attempted to wriggle out of the hold but was unsuccessful, his eyes grew wide. With enormous smiles on their faces, the 2 clones charged at Naruto, and all he could do was stare. They were charged with ki, and their feet were glowing yellow. As the clones simultaneously flipped over and drop-kicked Naruto, he closed his eyes and prepared for the pain. The clone on Naruto's ankles was pulled along with him as he flew. The clone released Naruto's ankles as he was falling through the air, then delivered a vicious axe kick to his stomach, sending him hurtling toward the ground. He kicked up a lot of dirt as he struck, creating a smokescreen. As the clones shouted, "Spirit tags, ignite!" the smokescreen only grew larger. A massive crater was created as a result of the massive explosion. Naruto rose to his feet as soon as the smoke had subsided. Everything was horribly burned, and his chest was blown to pieces. Thank goodness this happened in my mindscape where it could heal, Naruto thought. I suppose 10 clones was a bit much. After defeating his final clones, Naruto staggered back to his feet. After a while, Naruto made the decision to emerge from his mindscape and see how things were going in the real world. The real world. Naruto moaned as he forced himself to stop thinking, experiencing phantom pains from the places where he had been injured during the battle. In order to prepare for their training today, Naruto got up and surveyed the training area, noticing that Shino had already shown up and begun some light training. He turned to face Hinata, who had a frown on his face and was turning her head away from him. According to Naruto, "Hello, Hina-chan." Hinata did not even move an inch, continuing to stare in the same direction. Damn, Naruto thought. How could I have angered her so much? I detest it when she gets upset with me. While attempting, and failing miserably, to strike up a conversation with Hinata, Naruto kept up his small talk with Shino. He became more and more depressed with each failed attempt. Kurenai eventually arrived to break this gloomy cycle by escorting them to the Hokage Tower in order to obtain a mission. When they arrived at the Hokage Tower, they were met by a happy Sandaime Hokage, but as soon as he saw them, his good mood vanished. They're still fighting about this, he thought. Sigh, being young is truly a bittersweet experience. Young people are so incredibly foolish, but they are capable of so much more. Sarutobi responded, "Okay Team 8, here's your mission for today. A friend of mine named Naruto is designing a new type of trap for the village. He is scheduled to demonstrate it for the Konoha Council on Saturday, but he said that he's having a little trouble completing it on time. He needs a team to help him complete it and run the prototype. You need us to be guinea pigs? That is just messed up, OG.san. Naruto cried as his eyes grew wide. Don't worry. I spoke to Naruto and he said that it was completely safe for you guys. It'll be armed when you guys are completely safe and away from the trap. Now, do you accept the mission? Sarutobi said, laughing at Naruto's ridiculous response. They all decided to do it after talking it over. Good, said Sarutobi. Now if that's all, you are dismissed. After giving a nod, Team 8 departed the Hokage Tower to confront a man in a peculiar outfit. He was dressed in maroon, complete with a puffy hat with a feather protruding from it and a maroon cape. His shirt had puffed shoulders. His hair was the same length and style as his beard, which was very tousled. In addition, he had little liver spots on his face and gray hair. Hello. My name is Naruto. Are you the team that the Hokage sent to help me? He said in a peculiar accent as he bowed to them. According to Kurenai, yes, we are. The group was led by Naruto to a clearing just outside the village. So, tell us about this trap of yours. Naruto.san? Asked Hinata as they arrived. Naruto replied, well, I call it the Bouncing Betty. As for what it is, I want to leave that as a surprise for you guys to see. I already have one set up. I just need someone to activate it. Referring to Naruto, Kurenai said, Naruto, send a shadow clone to activate the trap. With a shrug, Naruto created a shadow clone. The clone followed Naruto's instructions to move forward. Naruto smirked as the clone moved 100 feet away. Abruptly, something blasted out of the new hole and a fragment of the ground exploded. Naruto's clone was carried away when the device, which was an exploding tag wrapped around a rubber ball, exploded. When his clone was destroyed, Naruto's eyes widened. Holy shit, that was awesome, exclaimed Naruto. Shino responded, Naruto.san, how does this thing work exactly? Naruto laughed as he said, that's the genius part. The design of the Bouncing Betty is so simple. One weak exploding tag is put on the ground that is activated when you step on it. That weak exploding tag knocks away the dirt and activates the one under it. That one explodes and sends the last explosive flying into the air. After the last explosive reaches chest level, it detonates, not only exploding to kill or stun any nearby enemies, but it also blows up whatever it's wrapped around. With bewildered eyes, Naruto questioned, how would that do damage? You had it wrapped around a rubber ball. Naruto replied, that's because I rigged this one for purely aesthetic purposes, not to kill. Imagine what would happen if it was wrapped around the inside of a steel tube, or if we balled up the exploding tag and put a sealing tag around it filled with metal shards? According to Shino, the leftovers from the explosion would fly out and do even more damage. Ingenious. Kurenai replied, Naruto.san, it looks like you have everything under control. What do you need us for? According to Naruto, that's the problem. The Konoha Council wants me to make a lot of these and I don't have the time. I need help with it. He began to scratch the back of his head. Hinata replied, I'm curious. How long have you been making this for the village? As Naruto put it, 6 months, give or take a week. They all had the same thought as the Genin's eyes widened. This guy is incredibly lazy. You heard the guy, Kurenai said, let's get started. Each of the 4 groups began to seize tiny pieces of paper and begin writing seals on them. They relied on Naruto to give them instructions because none of them knew how to close things off. Naruto provided each of them with a tiny metal container filled with tiny metal objects, such as broken chainmail fragments, knife tips, and nails. After taking 2 handfuls of the shrapnel, the ninja all sealed it in a tag. Then, just like Naruto, they set up the trap. Naruto ran out of shrapnel to use to create the sealing tags after 30 minutes of this. Naruto was assisting Hinata with a seal when Naruto turned to look for him. In order to avoid an awkward situation with Hinata, Naruto chose to simply search for shrapnel. Unaware of his surroundings, Naruto found himself searching for shrapnel in the woods. Naruto returned to Naruto's initial location at the testing ground to see how far along he was with the bouncing Betties. Upon arriving, he noticed that Naruto was not present. Kurenai-san. Do you know where Naruto-san went? He asked, turning around. Probably out tongue. Kissing that slut Tenten, Hinata thought gloomily. According to Kurenai, I saw him walk into the forest a minute or 2 ago, so I thought he was going to relieve himself. Concerned, Naruto asked, which direction did he go, as his eyes widened slightly. Kurenai gestured southwest, and Naruto's eyes grew as big as dinner plates, and his face turned pale. Something's wrong, isn't it? Asked Shino. We have to find Naruto, now, said Naruto. Naruto and Shino trailed behind Kurenai as she started to run. Kurenai was ahead of Hinata. She cared for Naruto despite her anger toward him, though she would never acknowledge it. He continued searching for shrapnel with Naruto and eventually located some, but then he heard Naruto yell, Naruto, do not move a muscle. Naruto, Kurenai, Shino, and Hinata were running toward Naruto when he turned around. Naruto replied, what's the matter, Naruto? I was just looking for more shrapnel to use. Whatever you do not move, shouted Naruto. Naruto said, what's so dangerous about Mauve, as he moved forward. An almost indiscernible pop sadly interrupted Naruto. Regretfully, Naruto happened to be in the midst of Naruto's latest pet project. Naruto took several bouncing Betties and arranged them in a circle rather than using just one. He would then tie each trip tag to the others so that they would all activate when one did. Additionally, he tied a trip tag to each one in the middle of the circle. Unfortunately, Naruto just set off the trap. The bouncing Betties were all alive, which made matters worse. The bouncing Betties all appeared and burst, engulfing Naruto in a massive explosion and obstructing his view. When Hinata saw this, she couldn't help but yell, Naruto-kun. The first person to reach Naruto was Hinata, who expressed gratitude that he was still alive. However, this did not imply that he was in good health either. There were numerous shrapnel fragments inside Naruto's body. The shrapnel even penetrated all the way through some of his body. In addition, all of the other wounds, including his eardrums, were bleeding profusely. As Naruto regained consciousness, Hinata held his head in her lap. Does this mean you forgive me, Hina-chan? He muttered weakly as he noticed Hinata above him. Hinata was on the verge of grinning when she realized why she was upset with him. She lowered his head and turned to leave. Naruto's head struck the floor and bounced feebly. Then Naruto got to his feet and gazed at Hinata. Will she ever tell me what I did incorrectly? Naruto was approached by Naruto, who said, Are you okay, Naruto? I'm sorry that this happened. I didn't mean for you to get caught in this. Naruto replied, It's okay Naruto, I'm fine. But Kurenai. Sensei, can I take the rest of the day off? I think I need to sleep this off. Naruto had a propensity to recover quickly, but normally Kurenai would be hurrying him to the hospital at this moment. Tomorrow, she wouldn't be shocked to see him in perfect health. According to Kurenai, okay Naruto. Go home and get some rest. We'll be at the training ground tomorrow morning. Without saying a word, Naruto took off and flew home. Naruto made the decision not to simply return home while traveling. He made the decision to train in Kenjutsu at Tenten's home. Dustin was working at the desk when he arrived and entered the store. Hey Dustin, where's Tenten? Asked Naruto. Didn't she tell you? Asked Dustin in a questioning tone to Naruto. Tell me what? Naruto asked, his face taking on a questioning expression. Dustin replied, She's got a mission. She's out of the village right now. She should be back in a couple days. With a sigh, Naruto said, All right, I'll see you later. After that, Naruto made the decision to return home and left Dustin's house. Naruto sat down to continue practicing his Reiki techniques after he got there. My Reiki sword and gun are nearly finished. I just need to get used to the attacks. The demonic transformation is the only thing I haven't completed yet. Naruto let out a sigh. That was something he hoped to postpone further. He didn't like to think about it much, despite being half demon. He was a little hesitant to assume his demonic form after learning that the villagers had been referring to him as a demon and that he was one. It was easy to take the form in his mind, but there would be no going back in the real world. Accepting his demonic ancestry and all of its implications was necessary for transformation. In all honesty, he was clueless about what would occur once he assumed his form. Either he ends up stronger than ever or he ends up killing himself. Until I find out, I suppose I won't know. Naruto went into a semi-meditative state after closing his eyes. In his mind, Naruto looked for his pool of Yuki, which was situated around his heart. Naruto grasped it and used it to fill his body, beginning the metamorphosis. The transformation was problematic because Naruto failed to consider that he was experiencing pain. When Naruto felt his heart stop, he took a deep breath in shock. Naruto rushed to the couch and clung to a pillow after his heart stopped beating. He screamed as the transformation took place after putting the pillow in his mouth and biting down as hard as he could. Naruto felt his fingernails grow and harden before becoming sharp and turning into claws. His canine teeth began to enlarge, and Naruto could feel them tearing into the pillow he was biting onto and the surrounding gums. Pointed fox ears grew out of the top of his head, and he felt them push back into his body. As the transformation continued, he felt his body becoming taller and leaner. As it hung down his body, his black hair, which had been spiky, succumbed to gravity. His hair grew out of his scalp, but the roots that emerged from his head were red rather than black. His multicolored hair spread out until Naruto's shoulders were where the black and red lines met. The black portion of his hair fell out when it arrived at its destination, revealing a mane that was completely red. His iris turned red, and his pupils also became slits. Additionally, he felt every wound from the close up of Bouncing Betty. Naruto released a breath he didn't even realize he was holding after a brief period of painlessness, believing the agony was over. However, as soon as he thought about it, Naruto's tailbone began to ache sharply. Naruto felt a tail emerge and snatched the pillow once more, screaming into it. The tail had a white tip and was the same color as his hair. Naruto eventually got over the pain as he stood up on unsteady feet and weak knees. To fetch a glass of water, he limped to the kitchen. Naruto thought, all right, after finishing the glass, it's time to train in my demon form now that I have assumed it. Naruto. Hold on, what's wrong, Okada-san? Sochi, you must postpone your training. Your human form is entirely different from this one. Additionally, you're utilizing different energy. Before attempting to use the Reiki gun, try to learn how to walk. Before you fight, get used to simply existing in this form. With a sigh, Naruto said in his head, all right, then. Naruto retreated from the window and made the decision to tidy his home. He could feel his demon form becoming more and more fluid as he cleaned. Naruto made the decision to organize his closet after tidying up his home. He discovered an old gift that the Sandaime had given him while he was cleaning it out. It was a device known as a radio that Yuki no Kuni invented. Special signals were picked up from locations known as radio stations that broadcast music. Since most of the world was preoccupied with war rather than leisure, radios weren't very common. Furthermore, it was nearly impossible to find someone who knew how to operate one, and they didn't exactly come with instruction manuals. Even though Naruto was bored and didn't know how to use one, he experimented with it until he did. An power button was pressed, and Naruto began tinkering with the knobs, observing a digital dial of numbers change as he did so. After tinkering with the knobs and antennas, Naruto heard a voice. The individual continued, hey everybody. This is DJ Green Rabbit playing the jams of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. All the lovebirds out there, listen up. It's time to grab that special person and hold them tight, 'cause this next song is for everyone who has ever been apart from that loved one. This song comes from my man Bill Withers and it's called, Ain't No Sunshine. You heard it here, only on 109.3, The Biz. Playing a love song while I'm going through this shit with Hinata? Thought Naruto, letting out a loud groan. My guts must be hated by someone up there. Bill Withers ain't no sunshine. When she's gone, there won't be any sunshine. Without her, it's not warm. When she's gone, there won't be any sunshine. She's also always gone for too long, whenever she leaves. I wonder where she's gone this time. I wonder if she's staying or not. When she's gone, there won't be any sunshine. Furthermore, this house simply isn't a home. Whenever she leaves. Additionally, I am aware of that. X25, little by little, Naruto began nodding his head in time with the song as the message began to register in his mind. For the past 2 weeks, this song had essentially captured his feelings. He thought everything was gloomy and that nothing mattered. Naruto unconsciously began tapping his foot in time with the music, humming along with it, and even singing along to some of it. Hey, I should give the young one some space. But without her, there won't be any sunshine. Without her, there wouldn't be any sunshine. Every day is just dark. When she's gone, there won't be any sunshine. Furthermore, this house simply isn't a home. Whenever she leaves. Whenever she leaves. Whenever she leaves. Whenever she leaves. Naruto began to think as the song began to fade. This song is entirely accurate. Since Hinata became upset with me, things have changed. All I want to know is what the devil I did wrong. However, I can't continue to live this way. I miss being able to hold her and kiss her, and I miss having her by my side. That's all right. I need my girlfriend back. I'll take her aside tomorrow and discuss this with her. And I'm not going to accept no, my girl will be back by this time tomorrow. Naruto resumed listening to music and acclimating to his demonic form after deciding to resolve the issue with his girlfriend. The following day, tomorrow morning, Naruto felt rejuvenated and resolute. He decided to put an end to the entire situation involving Hinata today. He was reunited with his girlfriend today. He had a tail when he woke up today. I must have fallen asleep in my demonic form, thought Naruto, who was still struggling to wake up. It isn't anything. I'll simply change back after taking a shower. Naruto took a self-bath in the shower. Following his self-bath, Naruto approached the shower's mirror and began to dry himself, being careful to remove his oval-shaped, round ears from the side of his head, which gave him those, wait a minute, what the hell? How can I still have my ears if they are normal? Naruto grabbed a tiny hand mirror, spun around, and used it to check where his tailbone was. There was a tail right there. It wasn't as fluffy and puffed as his usual one. It resembled a monkey's tail, thin, fuzzy, and entirely brown. What the hell happened? Naruto asked himself. Why am I sporting a tail? Mom, why don't you help me find the answers to these stupid questions? I'm thinking, genius, said Kushina's voice in his mind, and keep an eye on your mouth around me. Other than the possibility that assuming your demonic form must have activated a recessive gene, I am at a loss for ideas. However, where might the gene responsible for a monkey's tail originate? Probably from your Saiyan heritage, Kushina retorted. Since your ancestor Vegeta's time, your father has been the only Saiyan left, aside from you, and even then, Minato.Koi was only half Saiyan. It's possible that the Saiyans had tails. That's all well and good, but now that my tail is half as long as my leg, what in the world am I going to do? Well, perhaps you could tuck it into your pant leg or something, Kushina remarked. Or perhaps you could wear it as a belt around your waist. Ignore that. I could try cutting it off or something. Naruto, hold on. However, Naruto went ahead and attempted to cut his tail, ignoring Kushina's warning. Naruto reached behind himself to grab his tail after grabbing a knife, but as soon as he touched it, a sharp pain shot up his back. Naruto was compelled to scream aloud. Naruto cried out, damn it. That hurt more than growing it out did, as the pain knocked him to his knees. Kushina was giggling uncontrollably inside the mindscape. I tried to warn you, but you didn't listen, she said. Your tail would be extremely sensitive if it appeared at the same time as your demonic transformation. In a mocking reply, Naruto said, thanks for the heads up, Mom. Please pardon me while I figure out how to conceal this. Naruto considered his options before deciding to wear it as a belt around his waist. He wasn't exactly dressed, which was the only issue with that. Naruto returned to his bathroom to change, but as he saw his reflection, he did a double take. What the devil? I had a tail at first, but now my hair has red streaks. Is a tattoo on my ass the next step? His hair was streaked with red, just as Naruto had described. About half a shade lighter than blood, the new streaks were a deep crimson. Another recessive gene, Mom? Naruto thought. In response, Kushina said, probably not. This, in my opinion, is due to the way you changed into your demonic form. Yuki flooded your body, accelerating the transformation, but it may have also contributed to the red hair. It doesn't look that bad, anyway. It can be disguised as a new hairstyle. Welcome to this great big ball of shit I call a life, Naruto sighed. I'll take care of the rest of this later, though. I have to get dressed and get my girlfriend back right now. After taking a shower, Naruto dried off completely and changed into his clothes. Naruto made the decision to somewhat update his wardrobe following the Genin selection tournament. Naruto was aware that his old clothing would offer little protection in a real battle. Naruto made the decision to change into more combat-appropriate attire. Naruto had switched from his old orange jumpsuit pants to black pants and sandals. Naruto's pants were just the right amount of snug without being obstructive, but not so tight as to prevent blood flow to his lower body. Additionally, they were more elastic than ordinary denim, which made it easier for Naruto to move through his entire range of motion and made them more difficult to tear. It also featured built-in pockets for his shuriken and kunai, as well as other pockets for other items. Naruto had to cut a hole in the back of the pants at the location of his tailbone and slide his tail through it to make room for it. He had it fastened around his waist like a strange belt after that. Additionally, Naruto was wearing a white tank top that was significantly thicker than the typical tank top. It could slow a kunai down so they wouldn't pierce the body as much as usual, but it couldn't stop one for sure. Additionally, by absorbing pressure, the tank top could weaken stronger blows and absorb a lot of weak ones. Naruto was wearing black fingerless gloves as well. They resembled the fingerless gloves found on the typical Junin outfit until Naruto changed them. The metal plates were removed and applied to the glove knuckles in place of the ones on the back of the hand. Naruto added a black jacket to complete his new appearance. Additionally, it was specifically tailored for a fighter, just like the rest of his attire. Chainmail lined the inside of the jacket to deflect and absorb sword blows. In addition, his jacket featured multiple pockets for storing items. Naruto was able to conceal his tail more easily because the jacket hung down to about mid-thigh. In addition, Naruto wore a white strap around his back that extended from his right shoulder to his left hip. His sword was fastened to the strap on his back. Naruto made the decision to open his window and take off for the training ground since his entire wardrobe was on and he had no more surprises from his demonic transformation. Shino and Hinata were already at the training ground when Naruto arrived. After landing, Naruto headed straight for Hinata. His words were cut short when Kurenai's voice behind him said, "Good morning, team." With a smile on his face, Naruto said, "Good morning, Kurenai, sensei." He shouted to himself, "Fuck CCCCCCKKKKKKKK." Kushina's voice said, "What did I tell you about cussing?" Naruto heard. Naruto said, "I'm sorry, Mom. Hold on, I'll say whatever the hell I damn well want to say because this is my fucking mind." Then Naruto screamed and went to his knees after feeling a sharp pain in his head. "Perhaps that will teach you to watch what you say around me," Kushina said. Then Naruto mumbled, "Whatever." Kurenai rushed to Naruto after he fell to his knees and asked, "Naruto, are you okay?" Naruto replied, "I'm fine. I still got a headache from the bouncing Betty thing yesterday." Kurenai replied, "Are you sure that you don't need some more rest? You were pretty banged up after that bouncing Betty thing." Naruto replied, "Don't worry about me, Kurenai. Sensei. I'm completely fine." Uneasy, Kurenai replied, "If you're sure, well then, let's be on our way. We're going to do another mission today." After giving a nod, Naruto turned to face Hinata, but she had already left. Naruto began to feel depressed once more, but his mother reassured him, saying, "It's okay, Naruto. The remainder of the day is still yours. In addition, you will be on a mission. For the remainder of the day, she will be present." After taking off, Naruto flew to the Hokage Tower. When they got there, Sarutobi stated, "Team 8, as usual, you are the first to be here, so that means you have the first choice of missions. You can walk dogs for the Inuzukas, help clean up a training grounds, pick up the trash on the..." A pigeon flew through the window, interrupting the Hokage. Sarutobi was about to attempt to push it away when he noticed a piece of rolled up paper fastened to its leg. Taking the paper, Sarutobi began to read it. His expression grew more solemn as he read more, until he was wearing a huge frown. He stated, "Change of plans. Team Guy is in trouble." With a serious expression on his face, Naruto asked, "What happened?" Sarutobi continued, "Team Guy was on a mission to Guachi town. We got a mission request from the mayor to help the town combat a gang problem, but they were ambushed by the gang there, and Guy was injured. They need backup and we can't spare any Chunin or Junin. Our medics won't get Guy back here fast enough to treat the poison. With Naruto's abilities, you guys are the only ones fast enough to get there and get Guy back. After you bring him back, you must go back to Guachi town and help Guy's genin complete their mission. Do you understand? That poison can kill in 24 hours, so I need you to leave as soon as possible," Sarutobi said in response to their nods. Kurenai yelled, "Team, we don't have time to pack. You'll just have to make do with what you have on you right now. Shino, you're with me. Hinata, Naruto, I need you two to go ahead. Since Hinata has some medical training, she can restrain Guy so that the poison won't move while Naruto flies him back to the village." Both Hinata and Naruto nodded before making their way to the window. Naruto was ready to leave, but he stepped aside to give Hinata the opportunity. Though she secretly felt it was a kind gesture, Hinata simply glared at him and took the lead. Hinata's glare made Naruto sigh, and he thought, Guachi town is far away. We will eventually need to speak. In light of that, Naruto bounded out the window and headed straight for Guachi town. Tenten's perspective from yesterday. Tenten and the other members of her team picked up their mission from the Hokage and set out to complete it. Guy and Lee were discussing training regiments as they went along, with Neji interjecting his own remarks occasionally. Tenten was the only one who didn't speak, which was odd because she was usually so enthusiastic. Neji knew something was wrong with Tenten as soon as they left. Normally, she would try to start a conversation to help the group become closer, but this time, she remained silent. Neji initially believed that there was nothing wrong and that perhaps she was simply thinking about something. However, Tenten remained silent for 30 minutes while traveling to Guachi town. He was aware that something was wrong. Tenten was dragged aside by Neji as soon as they stopped for a brief rest halfway to the city. Neji replied, Tenten, what's the matter? You've been distracted all day. Tenten sneered, blowing off Neji's remark. She replied, what do you mean, distracted? I'm perfectly fine. Do you think I'm that dumb? Neji shot her a look. Neji replied, Tenten, you've been really distracted by something. Not just for today, but for the last 2 weeks. Something's up, and on the road isn't exactly the best place to be thinking about boy troubles. Tenten's eyes grew wide, and she blushed briefly before gathering herself, but she knew she was in trouble. Neji knew he was right on the money just by the fact that she even acknowledged what he had said. Neji narrowed his eyes a bit and said, so it is a guy. Tenten, I'm not gonna pry into your private life if you don't want me to, but you need to realize that you're a kunoichi. We are out of the village and on the road, one of the most popular roads for bandit raids. This is not the time for you to be fantasizing about your new boyfriend. We're all in danger, and you're in danger more than the rest of the team because you're a woman. Get your head together. Tenten murmured, I'm sorry Neji. It's just that, well, the guy is with another woman. I really like him, but I don't know if we'll ever get together. Neji lowered his gaze and replied, don't worry Tenten, just persevere. Sooner or later, things will turn out your way. And if that don't work, try reading something to get your mind off of the guy. I'd suggest the marital section of the Konoha Book of Law. With a perplexed expression, Tenten asked Neji, what do you mean? I know something you don't know. Neji smirked at Tenten, adding, if you follow my advice, you'll find out. Neji turned around and said, oh yeah, and another thing. Just because something is considered socially deviant, doesn't mean it's illegal. Neji had begun to leave. What the hell was all of that supposed to mean? Tenten asked Neji. Tenten simply shrugged and made his way back to Guy and Lee. Tenten and the rest of her team rested for a few more minutes before departing for Guachi town. They arrived and proceeded to City Hall to speak with the town's mayor regarding his gang issue. The mayor, a balding and portly man, welcomed them as they arrived. He continued, hello honored shinobi. I appreciate the fact that you've traveled all the way from Konohagakure to help us with our problem. The gang problem here is getting way out of hand. Well, Guy said, tell us about it. The mayor stated, the gang is called the Privaran. They were usually a small-time gang. A little vandalism and graffiti here and there, just minor misdemeanors. The gang was as dangerous as a group of 12-year-olds. But over the past few months, they've started graduating to bigger crimes. They started committing grand larceny and assault, and eventually, murder. Soon, all of the other gangs in the city disbanded, ran away, or were killed by the Privaran. When the Privaran became the last gang in the city, things got even worse. It became impossible to tie them to a crime. But after a few months of hard work, we were able to have their leader, Rodrigo Boruja, brought up on murder charges. There's a warrant out for his arrest, but he's surrounded himself with members of the Privaran and went off the grid. We can't find him now, but we were hoping you could. To get everyone's attention, Neji gave a little cough. He replied, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but how can you be sure that putting their leader in jail will get them to disband? The mayor stated, the Privaran are like a beehive. Without the queen, they're useless. They'll fall into disarray, and then we can take them from there. Tenten replied, but how can we tell members of the Privaran from just regular people on the street? I know you said they wore red and black, but so do a lot of people. The mayor stated, from what we could gather from our moles in the Privaran, the final test to becoming a member is to get a tattoo. The tattoo is of a man with red devil horns and a devil's tail, a white halo and angel wings, a red shirt, and black pants. Also, the tattoo must go on their arms. Tenten replied, but if you know that, then can't you just use that to arrest anyone fitting all of that description? With a sad expression on his face, the mayor stated, we've tried, but it didn't work. We can't find anyone with the tattoo anymore. Even people our moles knew were members have been coming up clean for the tattoo. Neji vented, how can a tattoo like that just disappear? They couldn't have just gotten it removed. Guy replied, don't you worry at all. We will take care of this gang problem for you. And if we can't, I'll run from Konoha to Sunagakure on my hands. Lee said, Yosh, and if that doesn't work, I'll hop to Kirigakure on one foot with the other tied to my arm. Guy said, and if you fail, I'll climb the Hokage monument using just my tongue. Lee yelled, and if you fail, I'll crawl to Iwagakure on my hands and knees. Oh Lee! Guy exclaimed. Guy, Sensei, Lee. Guy, Sensei. The two spandex clad shinobi hurled themselves at one another and gave each other hugs that crushed bones. Behind him, an image of a sunset over the ocean surfaced as they did. Oh my god! Oh my god, I'm blind! The mayor cried, covering his eyes. As soon as Lee and Guy began shouting, Tenten and Neji both put on sunglasses. Team Guy left City Hall after the genjutsu subsided. The mayor informed them that although the Privaran were dispersed throughout the city, their headquarters were in the Shanjoku district. In order for the gang members to identify their supporters, the Privaran also tended to wear red tops with black bottoms. The shinobi were taken aback by how rapidly the buildings changed as they arrived in the Shanjoku district. The buildings surrounding City Hall all appeared to have been constructed just yesterday. However, the buildings appeared to be on the verge of collapsing 10 minutes away. In certain locations, entire building walls were destroyed, windows were broken, and gardens were neglected. The number of homeless people there also significantly increased. The street was littered with empty syringes and used condoms. All of this was heartbreaking to see, but Team 10 knew they would have to accept it and complete their mission. Then perhaps some life might return to this area of the city. While on patrol, they began spotting individuals who matched the mayor's description of the Privaran. Numerous groups of people in black bottoms and red tops were standing around. Team 10 began spying on what some of them were doing from behind a building. As they looked, they noticed that the Privaran members were engaged in a variety of activities. A few of them were peddling drugs to passers-by. Until the owner gave them money, some of them were even breaking into stores and destroying items. Guy concluded he had had enough. One of them needed to be broken. Zoom in with your Byakugan. See if you can see their tattoos, Guy said, turning to face Neji. Following Guy's instructions, Neji zoomed in. He stated, because of what they've been saying, we know for a fact that they're members of the Privaran. But for some reason, they don't have the tattoo. Maybe they're using makeup to cover it, Tenten asked. Guy replied, we'll find out as soon as we get one of them. Team 10 moved into the shadows to follow a man who was heading home as the group of Privaran who were strolling down the street made the decision to split up. He took a shortcut through the alleys on his way home. Guy caught him while he was moving and threw him into a dead end. Guy began to give the man a fierce glare in an attempt to intimidate him and reveal his killer intent. The tried dot and true strategy was flawless. Guy replied, I have some questions to ask you. First off, where is Rodrigo? I'm not saying anything, the Privaran member said, frowning at Guy. Guy looked toward the alley's dumpster. Guy was facing the dumpster one moment. Guy's leg was knee deep in the dumpster when there was a loud bang coming from it. The Privaran member urinated due to the force and suddenness of the kick. I will only ask one more time. Where is Rodrigo Boruja? Guy asked, turning back to the man. Eventually, the member of Privaran gave in to the desire to kill. Rodrigo is, he said. A senbon struck the man squarely between the eyes, piercing his brain and killing him before he could say another word. Upon examining the senbon, Guy noticed a tiny explosive tag attached to it. Halfway up the buildings that comprised the clearing, Guy shouted, move! And his teammates leapt. Along with the Privaran member's blood and brain matter, tiny metallic shrapnel fragments flew everywhere as the explosive tag exploded. Guy looked toward the source of the senbon and saw a figure running across the rooftops in a black cloak. Tenten, Lee, follow him. Neji, you're with me, Guy said, squinting his eyes. Both Neji and Guy returned to the deceased Privaran member. Guy ripped off his shirt sleeves to reveal the tattoo. The mayor's description of the tattoo was accurate. Guy replied, isn't that strange? Somehow, he was doing something that kept the tattoo from being shown. When he dies, the tattoo suddenly appears. Something's just not right. Neji had the same thought as the man. What might prevent the tattoo from being visible? It was strange to consider, but it was possible that the Privaran member was familiar with ninjutsu. That would account for the tattoo's concealment until his passing. However, if it was genjutsu, they would have sensed it entering their body. There would have been a puff of smoke as he passed away if it had been the henge, but there wasn't. What might it be? Tenten and Lee arrived before they could figure it out. "Did you get him?" asked Guy. "Sorry, Guy. Sensei." He threw off his cloak and disappeared in the crowd. "He was gone before we could find him," Tenten said, bowing her head. Guy replied, "Don't worry, my youthful team. We can try to get information out of another member of the Privarin." The other members of Guy's team trailed behind him. Guy discovered 10 minutes later that the rest of the Privarin had fled like crazy while they were battling one of them. Not a single individual anywhere fit the description of the Privarin. Neji replied, "That guy in the cloak must have spread the word that we were looking for them." Lee replied, "But if that unyouthful fellow with the cloak is working with the Privarin, why did he kill that other guy?" According to Neji, "We cracked the guy we captured. He was about to tell us where Rodrigo was, so the other guy had to intervene." Guy replied, "Let's try this tomorrow. Maybe then, we'll have better luck. For now, let's go back to the mayor and ask him where we'll stay for the mission." The mayor informed Guy and his group that they would be lodging at the Kuroi Getsu, one of the city's top hotels. The team went to their rooms on the top floor of the hotel after checking in with the woman at the front desk. They were located directly at the hotel's southernmost point. They hardly noticed the door with the "employees only" sign on it as they exited the elevator. Tenten and Lee each had their own room on the right. Neji and Guy were in the room across from them. When they got there, each ninja went to their own room to try to relax after the day. Tenten was lying in bed and simply could not fall asleep. After tossing and turning, she simply sighed and got out of bed. Tenten chose to simply gaze at the city until she fell asleep, rather than resisting it. Tenten began to reflect on everything that had happened to her recently as she gazed up at the sky. She wouldn't have believed you 2 months ago if you had told her that she would be in the situation she was in. However, she was now close friends with a person who could fly. She had discovered someone who shared many of her interests, and he wanted to support her in realizing her life's ambition. She wanted to be with him despite the fact that he was seeing another girl, which made it even stranger. Normally, she wouldn't have even considered robbing another girl of her boyfriend. Hell, she would have severely beaten any woman who did this 2 months ago. She was beginning to see things differently, though, now that she was the one in this situation. Everyone was entitled to spend time with their loved one. She was aware that her feelings for Naruto were not yet love, but they had the potential to develop into such a bond. She had no idea that Naruto might be her soulmate. She had the possibility of being Naruto's suitor. Who's to say he won't feel more for her than for Hinata as they get closer? She promised to wait until they split up, but Tenten had no idea if that would ever happen. She stated that she didn't want to compete with Hinata for Naruto, so she wouldn't try to steal him. Tenten kept asking herself, was she afraid to fight another woman for him, so she was going to pass up a chance at love? Tenten let out a sigh, knowing that she would eventually have to make a difficult choice. Tenten would have to postpone that decision, unfortunately. Tenten was looking out at the city when she noticed something moving. She noticed 2 people walking past the hotel toward the back as she looked down. It's probably just the cleaning crew or something, Tenten thought. Tenten continued to scan the city in the hopes of falling asleep soon. She heard some shuffling outside her room's door while she was looking. She wouldn't have been bothered at first, but she was beginning to get annoyed with whatever was making the noise outside. When Tenten got to the door, she heard something and was about to demand that whoever was doing it stop. She could recognize the sound, but she couldn't place it. It had the sound of sizzling. Tenten jumped back, her eyes wide with surprise. The door flew open as she did, and people poured in. Tenten swiftly turned her bed over and used the mattress as a cover by turning it on its side. Fortunately for Tenten, she had placed all of her pouches and sealing scrolls on her bed as well, so when she turned it over, everything fell close to her. Tenten unsealed her sword and hurriedly strapped on her kunai pouch. Tenten yelled in agony as one of the men reached over the top of the bed and grabbed her hair just as she was about to unseal her sword. The man screamed in agony and withdrew his hand as Tenten swiftly produced a kunai and stabbed him in the arm while muttering, "Bastard." Tenten dropped the guy into his friends after jumping over the bed. Tenten sprang to her feet and surveyed the room's population. 8 people were present. They were all identified as Privarin members by their black bottoms and red tops. How in the world did they discover our lodging? Tenten had to fight for her life, so she was unable to come up with a response to this question. When Tenten noticed that one of the members was attempting to stab her in the stomach, he abruptly leapt to the left and sliced the man on his side, knocking him to the ground. A dagger swung past Tenten's head and she leaned back. Tenten kicked the man in the chin with a backflip. Tenten then grabbed a dagger with her free hand and threw the man to the ground. Tenten then put the man down by stabbing him in the stomach. Tenten immediately rolled to her feet and assumed a defensive position when she noticed one of the gang members hurrying her. The man who was hurrying her paused and looked at his friends. 3 of the Privarins suddenly hurried after her. Damn it! Tenten thought, grimacing. They're gaining knowledge. Tenten witnessed one of them slash low and two slash high. Tenten swore, leapt aside, and kicked the person closest to her. Tenten leapt back, only to discover that the members were still pursuing her. They're preventing me from wielding my sword. I must change my weaponry. Tenten couldn't go to where her sealing scrolls were because the Privarin were always on her whenever she moved. Tenten made the simple decision to draw two kunai and drop her sword. Tenten lowered herself into a defensive position and squinted her eyes. She was hurried by the three Privarin members. Tenten avoided the third kunai strike and blocked the other two. Tenten pushed the other members' daggers away, slit the man's throat, and swiftly kicked him in the stomach. Tenten had long since learned to cope with death, so she didn't lose it. Kill now, and then you'll be sad. Tenten kicked one guy in the shin and kneed the other in the stomach after blocking the guy's blows once more. Tenten stabbed one man in the throat before using the kunai's butt to strike the other man in the temple, knocking him unconscious. Tenten threw the kunai, eliminating two of the Privarin, after noticing that the final three guys were hurrying her and waiting until they were too close to avoid. When the final one realized he was by himself, he drew his dagger and hurried her. Tenten swiftly took advantage of the guy's momentum to knock him unconscious by flipping him over her and slamming him headfirst into the wall. Tenten swiftly fastened her gear after realizing that her assailants had left. When Tenten hurried out of the room, she discovered that her teammates had also been attacked. As she peered into their rooms, she could see that Neji was finishing up and eliminating his people with ease. Tenten. Thank goodness you were okay, said Lee, who had just finished with his ambushers. Tenten replied, yeah, no problem, Lee, but now, we gotta go in there and… Lee didn't hear what Tenten had to say next because they could hear the elevator pinging. They noticed a sizable contingent of the Privarin turn the corner and head straight for them as they looked down the hall. Neji emerged from his chamber to observe the circumstances. He stated, we don't have the room to take them out here. We have to move, now. But Neji-san, where will we go? Asked Lee. Recalling that they were on the hotel's top floor, Neji turned to face the window in his room. The roof, go, he said. With Lee promptly informing Guy of their destination, the three genin fled for their rooms. Tenten and Neji leapt out of the windows and used chakra to adhere to the building's side. Then they started to run to the top. Although Lee lacked chakra, he had always enjoyed rock climbing as a family hobby. He was able to use his rock climbing abilities to scale building sides after he turned into a ninja. Lee leapt from the window and hurried up the building's side to meet his teammates. He and his team looked at the only roof door as he reached up there. They all positioned themselves defensively. A little jangling was heard less than a minute later, and then the door was smashed open, allowing the Privarin members to begin streaming out. With Neji at his heels, Lee hurried the Privarin members. Tenten immediately began covering her teammates' asses with kunai. Like a hurricane, Lee and Neji were tearing through the Privarin together, throwing weapons, blood, and bodies all over the roof and occasionally off of it. Tenten's kill total rose by one with each kunai she threw. The fact that the Privarin members were being treated like rag dolls demonstrated how outclassed they were. Tenten was unable to hold the Privarin back with kunai alone as more members arrived. Quickly drawing a staff, she joined her teammates in the slaughter. Tenten appeared to be swinging her bow staff wildly to the untrained eye. With each blow striking a Privarin member in a location that could render them incapacitated, it appeared to the trained eye to be the motion of an obvious master. One of the members attempted to hit Tenten from behind during this time, but Tenten turned around and cracked him in the left temple. Tenten had to leap back so a punch would only hit air after having to quickly duck down to avoid a kick. A gang member grabbed Tenten by the stomach before she could take any action. Tenten attempted, but was unable, to escape his hold. She swiftly kicked one of them when she noticed he was coming toward her brandishing a kunai. She attempted to hit him with another kick, but the member ducked both of them. The man approached and attempted to stab her with the kunai, but Neji struck him with a juken strike there, causing his arm to go limp. Neji assisted Tenten in standing up after swiftly kicking the man holding her. Tenten replied, Neji, something's up with these guys. They're stronger than before. Neji replied, I know. Somehow, they're using chakra to increase their abilities. Someone must have instructed them how to, but the only person that could do that was a shinobi. According to Tenten, they must have one in their group. Neji replied, I suspected that too. Be careful, Tenten. With a nod, Tenten remarked, I will be. I was just caught off guard before. Neji witnessed a Privarin member shout, charge. At the same time, the Privarin members around them charged at them. Neji waited for them to approach, but Tenten leapt away in a hurry. Hakesho Kaden, he shouted. Neji spun around, throwing every Privarin member to the ground. A voice shouted, Fire style, Grand Fireball Jutsu, before he could take any further action. Suddenly, they noticed smoke rising from beneath him. Our hotel rooms must have been set on fire, Neji thought. Then Guy leapt from the smoke. Guy's hair was a little unkempt, and his spandex suit had a few tears in it. His mouth was bleeding a little, and there were dirt smudges all over his clothes. Another person leapt from the smoke as well. His hair was in a long ponytail and was blood red. Like Junin, he wore a black flak jacket, but it lacked the Uzumaki spiral on the back. There was a red shirt underneath his flak jacket. He had on black sandals and black shinobi pants. He held a massive broadsword in his hands and swung it at Guy. As he attempted to cut Guy in half but kept failing, his red eyes were beaming with hatred. Guy swiftly sidestepped one blow and blocked the next with the weights in his leg warmers. Guy kicked the man in the chest after using them to deflect the blow. Guy replied, "This fight has gone on long enough, Kazuya. You don't have the skill or energy to beat me. Give up. And go back to that dump of a village and be caged like an animal?" "No thanks," Kazuya growled. "You deserved to be jailed. You tried to poison a 4-year-old kid," Guy said, glaring at Kazuya. Kazuya said, "And I would have succeeded if you and that damn one. I'd freak didn't get in my way. I'm not going back to jail." Guy rushed toward Kazuya with the intention of striking the last blow, saying, "If you won't accept prison, then your only other option is death." Kazuya smirked at this. Guy mumbled, "Shit," as he was engulfed in a dark purple plume of smoke, unable to stop himself in time. Guy overlooked the fact that Kazuya was a skilled poison specialist. The way the Konoha hunter hunted ninja was completely changed by his creation of a poison dart launcher. He came up with a fresh concept while incarcerated. Pellets that can engulf an enemy by releasing a plume of poisonous gas when crushed. When Guy kicked him back, Kazuya intentionally let a few drop, and now Guy had just stepped on one. Lee turned to see his idol covered in smoke as the poison smoke bomb went off. Expecting the worst, Lee shouted, "Guy, sensei." Taking care not to breathe in any smoke, Lee hurried to Guy and pulled him out of the smoke. Lee checked Guy's pulse after grabbing him and found that he was breathing, albeit not conscious. Kazuya laughed as he said, "You better get your precious Guy sensei out of here and back to Konoha. That poison has a kill clock of 24 hours. Lee said, "You unyouthful fiend, for what you did to Guy sensei, I will defeat you right now. Kid, you're 10 years too young and 20 years too inexperienced to defeat me," Kazuya smirked. "Keep thinking that." Lee grinned. Lee disappeared from the ordinary eye as he reached down and removed his weights. As Lee launched a maniacal barrage of blows at Kazuya, the latter could hardly stop him. Kazuya began to take Lee seriously after he realized his error. Kazuya quickly caught up to Lee's speed, and within a few minutes, Lee was past. Tenten and Neji noticed what was going on and went to assist, but before they could do so, Kazuya noticed Neji and recognized him as a Hyuga. Kazuya took the next best course of action since he knew that he wouldn't be able to compete with all three of them. Kazuya shouted, "Fire style, Grand Fireball Jutsu," and performed a few hand seals. He threw the jutsu at a section of the roof, setting it on fire. With a grin, Kazuya said, "Goodbye, Leaf Nin." Then Kazuya leapt from the structure and vanished. They were too busy to follow him, though Neji would have tried. A gas tank on top of the building was in the path of the fire that Kazuya had started. When Neji saw it, he shouted, "Move," to his team. Guy was still wearing his weights when Lee put them on and assisted Neji in grabbing him. They leapt from the building just before it exploded, Tenten running behind them. The Kuroi Getsu Hotel's entire roof and top 3 floors were consumed by fire, killing any surviving members of the Privaran that were up there. The entire hotel was engulfed in flames as the fire spread downward. Neji wasted no time in telling Tenten and Lee to keep going and not turn around. They were searching for a place to hide while they ran so they could organize their next move. They ultimately decided to seek refuge in an abandoned warehouse located across the city from the Kuroi Getsu Hotel. Neji and Lee cleared a spot, laid Guy down, and began examining him. Using his Byakugan, Neji examined Guy to see how the poison was affecting him. The poison moved slowly, as he could see. It began in his lungs and spread gradually. It would soon enter Guy's bloodstream, travel to his heart, and then be circulated throughout his body. "We must quickly get him assistance, otherwise he will perish." Neji responded, "Lee, how long did the poison guy say that Guy had?" 24 hours, Lee said. "Shit," Neji muttered, "we have to return to the village immediately." Tenten replied, "But how will we? We can't afford to take Guy back at our regular pace. It might make the poison move faster. Walking there will take more than a day." Neji began to pace the warehouse as he considered how to get out of this predicament. Neji was aware of the pressure. Although it wasn't formally stated, everyone in the group was aware that Neji would take charge if Guy was unable to guide them. As Guy began to understand this, he began to solicit Neji's opinion on specific matters and to ask Neji to lead missions. Neji was glad to comply with those since he was aware that if he made a mistake, Guy would be there to save their asses. However, Guy was now unconscious, and they were turning to Neji for direction. Now, all of the leadership lessons Guy had given Neji would be put to the test, and Neji could acknowledge his own fear. However, he didn't want to disappoint them because they were looking to him. Neji had an idea 10 minutes after he began to pace. Neji asked, "Tenten, how fast can Naruto fly?" as he turned to face Tenten. Tenten nodded and replied, "I don't know. Last time we checked, he could fly twice as fast as he ran. He might have gotten faster though." Neji responded, "Okay, I've got a plan. We need to get Team 8 here now. Hinata has some medical training and she can fly too. If she can move as fast as Naruto, they can get here in half the time it took us. She restrains Guy so the poison won't accelerate and Naruto flies him back to the village." Lee responded, "That's a good idea, Neji, but you left out the part about how we would get the message to the village to request Team 8. We don't know how to summon a messenger hawk, so we can't send it that way." Tenten said, "Why not use a pigeon in the town pigeon coop? They're not as fast as hawks, but they can deliver the message in a few hours." This was the spark that ignited in her mind. "Good thinking, Tenten. Write the message and send it, quick," Neji said, nodding. Tenten began writing the message to the Hokage after taking an empty scroll from her pouch. She had to hurry because it was getting close to dawn when she was done. Tenten crossed the village to the pigeon coop, staying in the shadows. She gave a pigeon a message and told it to fly to Konoha. Tenten started to head back to the warehouse after sending it off, but she was distracted by a poster. She, Neji, Lee, and Guy were all featured in the poster. These four are wanted for questioning in connection with the Kuroi Getsu Hotel destruction, according to the text beneath the image. Report them to the police right away if you see them. They pose a serious threat. Things just went from bad to worse, Tenten moaned. Both Naruto and Hinata left for Juahachi town after receiving the Hokage's marching orders. Hinata continued to give Naruto the cold shoulder while they were in the air. "What do you believe to be the poison affecting Guy, Hina, Chan? How will you secure him to the stretcher with straps? It could be helpful to know in case something similar occurs again." After 10 minutes of this, Naruto finally lost it and yelled, "All right, that's it. I've been patient and putting up with you giving me the cold shoulder for 2 weeks, but now I'm getting tired of it," Naruto said, flying directly in Hinata's path and making her stop. "Tell me, Hina, Chan, what in the world did I do to deserve such a harsh punishment?" Before letting loose, Hinata simply stood there and scowled at Naruto, shouting, "You want to know what you did? Tenten, you stood up for that slut." In response, Naruto said, "So what? You called her a slut and got into a fight with her without even knowing her for a day. She's a friend of mine. What makes her so damn special that you would take her side over me?" Hinata shot back. "You've only known her for a month, and already you're standing up for her. Have you forgotten how we even became friends, Hinata?" asked Naruto. "I only spoke to you 5 times during the 2 days I knew you. When a Cloud Junin attempted to kidnap you, I rescued you even though I knew absolutely nothing about you. What's that got to do with his?" Hinata retorted. "I won't just stand by and let someone talk about my friends the way you did to her," Naruto declared. "I won't just let someone talk about them, whether it was Tenten or someone else." "You still didn't respond to me," Hinata said. "Why would you choose her over me? What makes her so unique?" "I don't want to choose a side, but you two keep pressuring me to," Naruto remarked. "You two are very important to me, and I wanted you two to be friends, so I took her to the training ground that day. However, you both chose to make it into a single, heated argument, and now you're putting me in the center of it. All I want is peace." "Well, you're not gonna get it anytime soon," Hinata muttered. "Tell me why, then," said Naruto. "Why aren't you two able to resolve this like responsible adults?" "Because she's trying to steal you from me," Hinata blurted out. He would have guessed a lot of things, but Tenten trying to steal him from Hinata? That never occurred to him. "What are you talking about?" Hinata's statement clearly shocked Naruto, and judging by her reaction, she was shocked as well. It appeared that Tenten's true goal was something that Hinata didn't want Naruto to know. "I went to Tenten and told her to stay away from you after our first argument," Hinata said. "She claimed that she wouldn't and that she would take you away from me as soon as there was a problem in our relationship." "And you believe that ignoring me for 2 weeks will give the impression that our relationship is fine?" said Naruto. "Sai, you're my girlfriend, Hinata. Nothing will make you any less of the woman I love. However, it doesn't seem like you want our relationship to last when you ignored me and gave me the cold shoulder for 2 weeks. I know, Hinata said with a sigh. I have no idea what happened to me. I had just gotten together with the love of my life, and some slut had just tried to snatch him away from me, and I was furious. I took it out on you without any justification because I was so angry. I sincerely apologize. Naruto.kun. Water under the bridge, Hinata. Chan, Naruto said with a smile and a hug for his girlfriend. However, this does bring up a query. What question? Hinata asked, looking up at Naruto. What the hell are we going to do about Tenten? Asked Naruto. She may be attempting to take me away from you, but she is also a friend of mine. She assisted me in improving my kenjutsu. I assured her that I would do everything in my power to help her realize her dream. You are aware of my feelings regarding breaking my commitments. Naruto.kun. I don't want you to have to break up your friendship with her for that, but I don't feel comfortable with you hanging around her, Hinata said, turning her head away from Naruto's eyes. What happens if she tries to approach you? She can make all the moves she wants, Naruto said, turning Hinata's chin so that she was facing him directly. In my heart, no one can ever truly replace you. Nobody can take away what we have, which makes it unique. There is no force in the world that can ever take away my love for you, Hinata. The words of Naruto began to stir something inside Hinata, causing her cheeks to flush and her eyes to well up with tears. Her voice broke as she said, Naruto, that's the most romantic thing I've ever heard. Hinata was unable to contain her tears any longer, and she placed her head against Naruto's chest and began to cry. Naruto simply gave her a tighter hug and began to cry silent tears of happiness that he had found his true love again. For what seemed like hours, the lovers simply floated in midair, reveling in each other's affectionate embrace. Thanks, Naruto.kun, Hinata said, wiping her eyes as their tears began to dry up. I required that. Good, Naruto said with a smile. Let's go get Guy now before he passes away on us. Naruto and Hinata then started moving as quickly as they could in the direction of Guachi town. 4 hours later. Guachi town, 2 p.m. When they finally arrived in the town and landed atop a skyscraper, he and Hinata leapt to the ground and began to stroll through the village, during which Hinata uttered the words, "We must locate Team Guy as quickly as possible." According to their initial mission report, they were hired by the village mayor himself. He might be able to tell us their location. In light of this, they both began to make their way to City Hall, where they noticed a sizable crowd gathered in front of the building. The mayor was preparing to deliver a speech at a stand in front of City Hall, and Naruto turned to the closest bystander and asked, "What is the mayor giving a speech about?" According to the civilian, "You're not sure. A terrible Leaf Nin agreed to come here and assist us in battling the Privaran. However, a hotel was burned down just last night. 30 people lost their lives." The fact that someone set fire to a hotel and blamed it on his friends was far more important to Naruto than the existence of the Privaran. "You're lying," he said. "That could not have been done by one of the Leaf Nin." "It's true," a neighboring civilian said, turning to Naruto. "The location of the former Kuroi Getsu is very close to where I live. Last night, I went outside to investigate when I noticed a red glow. As the Kuroi Getsu burned to the ground, I watched them leap from the roof and dash down an alley." "I don't believe you," Naruto said, shaking his head. "I don't think that's what they did." Naruto's first question was, "Son, what happened to your common sense? Whatever happened to innocent until proven guilty?" was Naruto's response. The mayor began speaking before the man could continue. "Good morning, Guachi town residents. I'm Takeshi Yamamoto, and I was mistaken. The Privaran have been terrorizing our town for years, as you and I both know. I guess I've had enough. I wanted it finished right away, and I wanted them out. I therefore devised a scheme to force them into the ground in order to accomplish that. The Leaf Nin's assistance was essential to that plan's survival. The Kuroi Getsu hotel burning down while they were still residing there was something I didn't anticipate. I'm coming to you now to make amends. As of right now, we know that there was no physical problem that caused the fire of the Kuroi Getsu hotel. It was not because of faulty wiring or a candle being knocked over. We are certain that a fire element ninjutsu started that fire. While we have no physical evidence that suggests that it was the Leaf Ninja that started this fire, they are the prime suspects. So, as mayor of Guachi town, I officially put out a warrant for the arrest of Tenten, Rock Lee, Neji Hyuga, and Maeda Guy. Also, until further notice, it will be the policy of this city to treat any Leaf Nin as potential accomplices to these four. Until further notice, Leaf Nin are no longer legally allowed to be in Guachi town." Muttering, Naruto said, "Oh shit, this isn't good. Maybe it's best if we leave before people realize that." Hinata whispered as she leaned over to Naruto. Someone shouted, "They're there over there, Leaf Nin," before Hinata could finish her sentence. Damn. Hinata muttered. When that person screamed, Hinata and Naruto were surrounded by people attempting to restrain them. Hinata and Naruto sent out a wave of ki that knocked everyone around them on their ass, almost as if they were one. They then leapt to their right, hopped to a building's side, and took off running. They halted their run and leapt into an alley once they believed they were at a safe distance. Hinata and Naruto decided to remove their headbands and conceal them in their shirts as they sought safety in that alley. Immediately after doing so, they heard someone behind them utter the words, "Damn, I wish you guys would teach me how to do that stuff." They turned and saw Neji. "Neji," shouted Hinata, who leapt into his arms and gave her brother figure a hug. Naruto replied, "It's good to see you, Neji. I thought you guys were hurt in that fire." Neji responded, "We're all right, but Guy is a different story. I trust you guys know the situation?" When they nodded, Neji responded, "Well, come on. I'll show you guys where we are." Subsequently, Neji led Naruto and Hinata to the warehouse where he and his group were hiding. On the way, however, he turned to face Naruto and exclaimed, "Naruto, what the hell did you do to your hair? It looks like you fell asleep in ketchup." "Fuck you, Neji." They found Tenten and Lee sitting next to Guy, caring for him, when they got to the warehouse. Hinata was clearly tense when Naruto and her arrived. As they approached Guy, Naruto took Hinata's hand in his to soothe her. Tenten and Lee noticed them on their way to Guy's body. Tenten was about to give Naruto a hug when she noticed that he was holding Hinata's hand. "Hinata. Chan? Naruto-kun. It is so great to see you too," Lee exclaimed as Tenten stared at them, stunned that they were once again together. "It's good to see you too, Lee. Tenten. Chan, how's Guy doing?" Naruto said with a small laugh. Tenten continued to stare into space, as if she hadn't heard Naruto. "I'm sorry, Naruto-kun. What did you say?" she said, shaking her head rapidly after Naruto repeated her name. Says Naruto, "How's Guy doing?" Tenten replied, "Oh, he's not doing so well. His breathing is getting more and more shallow. His pulse is getting weaker too. I don't know how long he has left." Naruto was saying, "Don't worry, Tenten. Chan, he'll be fine, I promise." After giving a nod, Tenten said, "Thanks, Naruto-kun." Naruto replied, "No problem. Hinata. Chan, when do you think we'll be able to move him?" Hinata replied, "I don't know exactly. I'll have to do a few tests." Naruto replied, "Okay, Hinata. Chan. Tenten. Chan, can I talk to you outside for a second?" "Sure," Tenten replied. Tenten followed Naruto outside, where they hid in the building's shadows to avoid being noticed by anyone passing by. He was saying, Chan, there's something that I need you to do for me?" Says Tenten. "Anything, Naruto-kun." Naruto replied, "I need you to try and bury the hatchet with Hinata. Chan." Tenten's eyes went wide with astonishment. Her fists clenched and her eyes narrowed as her surprise turned to anger. "Why the hell should I?" she said. Naruto responded, "Tenten, I know that you two got into a fight. I know that she's not exactly your favorite person in the world." Tenten muttered, "No shit," but Naruto remained silent if he heard. He continued, "But she's my girlfriend and I love her. She means a lot to me and so do you. I'd really appreciate it if you just tried to get along with her." Tenten replied, "Hell no, not after what she did. She's the one who should apologize." Naruto let out a sigh. Why must every woman in my life be so incredibly obstinate? He vaguely recalled his mother saying, "Hey, I resent that." "Don't care," Naruto shot back. "Tenten, don't you think that Hinata feels the exact same way?" he asked. At that statement, Tenten began to back off a little. Naruto went on, noticing that she was beginning to soften her distance. "You both did things that you shouldn't have done and should apologize for. All I'm asking is that you be the bigger woman and apologize first." Tenten gave a headshake. "I don't know if I can just forgive her for what she did." Naruto replied, "Hey, you never know who your best friend could wind up being. When Neji first met me, he thought that I was just some street urchin and I wasn't worthy of being Hinata Chan's friend. As a matter of fact, that was the first thing he said to me. I punched him in the jaw, and we got into a fight. We were always at each other's throats and calling each other names afterwards. But because of Hinata Chan and how she felt about it, we decided to let the past stay in the past. After we got over that, Neji became my best friend." Tenten let out a sigh. "Why must Naru-kun be correct?" she asked herself. She replied, "Fine, I will, but only because you want me to so bad." With a nod, Naruto gave Tenten a hug. "Thank you," he said, "Ten-chan." Despite her protests, he released her, and when he and Tenten returned to the warehouse, they discovered that Hinata had completed her tests. While Naruto was flying Guy home, she was tying him to a piece of wood to keep him from moving. "Naruto-kun," she said after tying him on, "he's ready." With a nod, Naruto lifted the prone Guy. "Hurry, my youthful friend. Guy. Sensei has less than 12 hours left," Lee said, holding him above his head. Hinata approached Naruto and gave him a kiss. She continued, "It took us 4 hours of flying to get here. You'll have to slow it down so that you don't aggravate his condition. You'd better get moving." "I'll be back soon, guys, don't worry," Naruto said, nodding. After leaving the warehouse, Naruto bounded off in the direction of Konohagakure. 5 hours later, at 7 p.m., the road to Konohagakure begins. Naruto had little to do as he flew toward Konohagakure at a breakneck speed. Hinata was flying with a comatose patient while he was with Team Guy in Guachi town. He was discussing the details of his demonic form with his mother in order to kill time. He didn't realize that 2 bugs were hitching a ride on his shoulder while he was doing this. These 2 insects belonged to the colony of bugs that lived inside Shino's body. In order for Shino to locate them in the event that they were separated for any reason, there was typically always one on Naruto. Just before he leapt out of the Hokage's window, however, the second was placed on him. The second bug flew off Naruto's shoulder and hit the ground as he was in midair. After a while it found its way onto Shino's finger. He looked at Kurenai and said, "Kurenai. Sensei, Naruto-san has just flew overhead. He's taking Guy to Konoha to get the treatment. If things stay this way, Naruto will make it to the village in enough time to save Guy-san." Kurenai sighed with relief upon hearing the good news. She replied, "That's good. I was worried for a second there." Kurenai's statement appeared to be ignored by Shino, but upon closer inspection, she could see that he was still deciphering the language of his bug. Shino said, "My bug also said that Naruto and Hinata made up." Kurenai replied, "Finally. I thought I was gonna have to lock them in a closet together to get them to make up." "I agree. It sounds weird, but I kind of missed Hinata and Naruto being all lovey-dovey," Shino said, nodding. Muted, Kurenai said, "That makes one of us." Shino returned his attention to his bug. Shino was troubled by its final piece of news. Shino responded, "Kurenai. Sensei, we may have a problem when we get to Guachi town." "What kind of problem?" asked Kurenai. Sternly stated, while Hinata and Naruto were there, they were attacked by someone. "It could have been this gang that Team Guy was sent to take down, but my bug doesn't think so. The only thing it's telling me is to expect opposition when we reach our destination." Kurenai gave a nod and accelerated. They weren't flawless, but she hoped she could learn more from the bug. She couldn't get in touch with Hinata. She and Shino were not even close to them yet, and she was in Guachi town. By now, Naruto would have been miles away from them if he had been flying at his maximum speed. The opposition she was expecting was unknown to her. Kurenai made the decision to ignore it until she had time to relax and consider her options. Konohagakure, 3.5 hours later, 10:30 p.m., Naruto sighed as the medical staff led Guy into the emergency room. As previously stated by Hinata, the flight to Guachi town took 4 hours at maximum speed. Guy's internal fluids, however, would have been splattering about like the water inside a balloon during a water balloon toss at their maximum speed. That would have accelerated the poison's passage through his body. Naruto flew at half speed instead. The flight back to Konoha took 8 hours, but it was still lightning fast. Furthermore, Naruto miscalculated the speed and continued to worsen Guy's condition. Guy had just 2 hours left before the poison would reach his heart as it was. Naruto prayed for Guy to succeed to whoever was listening. Naruto left the hospital with the intention of flying through the night to get to Guachi town, but he was tapped on the shoulder by an Anbu agent before he could take off. "Naruto-san, the Hokage would like to see you before you depart," the Anbu agent said. After giving a nod, Naruto left for the Hokage's office. When he arrived, he discovered that the Hokage had a large file on his desk and had purged it of unnecessary documents. "Naruto-kun," said Sarutobi, "I've been reading through this thing." Naruto rolled his eyes and let out a sigh. "Old man, is that my medical file again? Didn't I tell you before to just burn that thing? It's only gonna depress you more?" Sarutobi responded, "I know, Naruto-kun, I know. But it's just that what young Tenten put in her distress letter bugged me. The poisoning of Guy-san. It reminded me of something that happened to you. I was looking in your medical file to help me remember what it was." With a raised eyebrow, Naruto asked, "Did it help?" "Naruto, You remember when you were 4 and you spent a week in the hospital? Asked Sarutobi, nodding. Naruto replied, yeah. This guy gave me a coupon for a free meal at Roboto.san no Shokudo. A.N. Robert's cafeteria. I ordered the fish and chicken dish and got salmonella from the uncooked chicken. Sarutobi responded, true. But there's a different side of that story that I didn't tell you. What? Asked Naruto. The Hokage replied, you didn't actually get salmonella, Naruto.kun, you were poisoned. With narrowed eyes, Naruto addressed the Hokage, asking, what you talkin' bout, Sarutobi? The Hokage replied, you never contracted salmonella. When we interrogated Roboto.san about it, he said that he put something special in the tartar sauce that came with the fish and chicken. He put some special poison in there? When the Hokage said that, Naruto appeared stunned. How is that possible, Oji.san? I thought that since I had Grandpa Fuzzy Pants in my body, it made me immune to poison. While Kushina was rolling around in Naruto's head laughing, the Kyuubi roared in embarrassment and anger at the Grandpa Fuzzy Pants remark. The Hokage took note of the Grandpa Fuzzy Pants remark, but he didn't express any surprise. He stated, that's what I thought. It turns out that it just makes it easier for you to throw off the effects of the poison and fight it. There was enough in that tartar sauce to kill 30 people. If anyone else would have ingested as much of the poison as you did, Naruto.kun, they'd have dropped dead instantly. You're lucky you were just bedridden for a week. Did you guys ever find out who did it? Asked Naruto. Sarutobi's anger from that day came back to him, and he narrowed his eyes. Naruto was reminded that the Hokage was more than just an elderly man when he looked him in the eye. He was among the world's most dangerous individuals. Naruto nearly felt sorry for the poor bastard, whoever that stare was directed at. According to Sarutobi, Kazuya Goraichu was a master of Kenjutsu and one of our village's greatest poison experts. In fact, he invented the poison dart launcher. The things he could do with his sword would make a samurai green with envy, but despite all of his incredible skills, he had one major flaw. He was never able to let things go. He and his twin brother Kaiza were among the first to arrive on the battlefield during the Kyuubi attack. They were the main organizers of the group that diverted the Kyuubi's attention while your father prepared to fight him off. Since Kaiza gave his life to save Kazuya, Kazuya has held 2 people accountable for his brother's passing, you and him. He threw himself into training and poison making after the attack, creating 5 different potions in 4 years, each more potent than the last. He used his final poison on you. Guy.san and Kakashi.san then pursued him and put him in jail. There was a significant power outage at the prison where he was a few months ago. 30 inmates escaped when the power went out. Only 20 of those 30 were apprehended. They were the only 10 prisoners in the prison's Supermax wing who had not been apprehended. All 10 of the prisoners were formerly Konoha.nin and were regarded as valuable members of our village. They were rapidly advancing to the rank of elite Junin. However, they all attempted to harm you in some terrible way, and they all nearly succeeded. One of them was Kazuya, and the poison guy is afflicted with sounds a lot like a less potent form of his 5th poison. He might still harbor resentment toward you if it is. Naruto, you must exercise extreme caution. Thanks for your concern, OG.san, but you have nothing to worry about, Naruto said. I'll be alright. I'll try, Sarutobi said with a laugh, but I don't think I will. Grinning, Naruto remarked, I know. Alright, enough of the corny stuff, the Sandame said. Go kick some ass out there. Bring Kazuya back alive if you can. The cash reward for bringing him in alive is double that of bringing him in dead. Sarutobi sighed and remarked, that boy is gonna be the death of me. Naruto nodded and fled out the window. After a few minutes, leaving the Sandame's window, Naruto headed for Juahachi town, choosing to fly a little more slowly than usual. As he flew, he thought to himself, Mom, what is Grandpa Fuzzy Pants' real name anyway? Kyuubi no Yoko sounds more like a title than a name. Well, Sochi, Kushina said, Daddy dislikes it when people call him by his given name. If Daddy wishes to maintain his position as King of Demons, he must instill fear in other demons through the title Kyuubi no Yoko. Kurama is actually his name. And Naruto said, Kurama. I now understand why he prefers the name Kyuubi no Yoko to Kurama. Kurama. Sama doesn't sound nearly as intimidating as Kyuubi, Sama. Naruto was scanning the world while he was in the air. He could have sworn he hadn't passed this section of the forest, so call him crazy. He heard screaming in the distance as he was scanning his surroundings to try to find his way. Naruto chose to fly in the direction of the scream since he had nothing better to do. His blood ran cold at what he saw when he arrived. Naruto could infer what it was from the location in the deep forest and the numerous wooden towers that surrounded it. It was a camp for bandits. The smell of sweat, blood, and sex was a dead giveaway, if the look didn't tell him. Naruto had a thought just before he hurried down there and destroyed the place. He had to reach Guachi town as quickly as he could. However, there may be hostages or worse in the bandit camp. His concern for the camp's residents eventually overcame him as he began to consider ways to assist them. He came up with a plan a few minutes later. In a flash, Naruto created 10 clones and surrounded the compound with them. They gave straightforward orders. Stop any bandits who are attempting to escape. While Naruto landed on the ground, his clones swiftly rose to Super Saiyan. As Naruto transformed into a demon and filled his body with Yuki, he focused and closed his eyes. Red hair grew from his shoulder, length scalp, and his black hair fell out once more. His fingernails developed into sharp claws. Fox ears emerged from the top of his head and pushed back into his body, replacing his normal ears. His whiskers thickened and his canine teeth sharpened. Naruto was fortunate not to have to go through the process of growing out his tail again. His present tail grew red fur with white fur at the tip, resembling a monkey's tail. The brown fur fell off when the new fur was sufficiently grown out. Once more, the transformation was extremely painful, but Naruto persevered. Naruto discovered that the transformation was simpler than the previous time when it was finished. Hopefully, it will reach a point where it is painless. I can't endure this suffering each time I wish to change. Naru-chan, the fact that the transformation hurts every time is an indication that you're not ready to fight in that form yet. Oh, don't worry, Mom. I'll be alright. Please, Naru-chan, I don't want to see you get hurt. Sometimes you have to run before you can walk, Mom. Name one situation where that ever applies. Don't stop me now, Okawa-san. I'm doing really well. Sigh. Okay, Naru-chan, but if this blows up in your face, I reserve the right to tell you I told you so. With haste, Naruto removed his headband and tucked it into his pocket. It was probably best if no one linked him to his village in case this situation went south. Swiftly, Naruto squatted down and leapt to the closest lookout post. While the other lookouts were not looking, Naruto sunk his claws into the post side and climbed to the top. Leaping to the top of the platform, Naruto snatched the lookout and flung him to the ground. His clones would take the man out if he didn't die when he hit the ground. Naruto then proceeded to enter the compound. He crept about the camp, quickly staying in the shadows. He located an unaccompanied man and crept up behind him. Taking the man by the waist, he dragged him into the darkness. Naruto swiftly slammed the man's head into the ground before he could scream in shock. He saw blood flowing from the side of the man's head after smashing it into the ground. That's strange. I am aware that I didn't hit his head hard enough to cause blood to flow. Once again, maybe it's a sign that you shouldn't be fighting in this form yet. Naruto made the decision to move on through the compound, ignoring his overly protective mother. He was swiftly and stealthily eliminating an increasing number of bandits as he hurried through it, moving in the direction of where he heard a scream. When he arrived, he noticed a large structure in the middle of the compound, possibly the largest. He also noticed that there were a lot of bandits around the building. It would be difficult to enter without being noticed. Quickly attempting to create a shadow clone, Naruto scowled when it failed. What the hell? He thought. Why am I unable to create a shadow clone? Oh no, I have only Yuki in this form. I can't perform any jutsu because there isn't any ki. From his hiding place, Naruto searched his mind for a strategy. He could be kicked in the ass or the hostages inside could be killed if he attempted to charge in. The same thing might occur if he attempted to blow up the building. After frantically trying to think of something to do, Naruto suddenly had an idea. Naruto walked to one of the nearby buildings after turning around. Naruto proceeded to a window and discovered that nobody was inside. Naruto immediately began attaching explosive tags to every part of the structure. Naruto then blasted the tags and dashed back to his original hiding place. The building was completely demolished when the tags blew, destroying the first floor. Since they were among the closest guards, all of the guards on duty at the large building fled in the direction of the explosion when it occurred. Seeing that the front door was empty, Naruto hurried inside. After that, the Hanyu hurried through the structure while keeping an ear out for the scream. After some time, he discovered a staircase that led to a basement. Still following the sound of the yelling, Naruto descended the stairs. It abruptly stopped as Naruto was approaching the yelling. Naruto paused as well, pondering the situation. Naruto heard a man shout, "No, please not her. Anyone but her. I'm begging you, stop." A few seconds later. As quickly as he could, Naruto rushed forward and reached a door. Naruto leapt to his feet and kicked down the door. When he dashed inside, He noticed that several people were huddled in one corner, sobbing and whimpering. There were 2 bandits in the center of the floor. They were preventing a man from assisting a young girl who was being held at knife point by another bandit by holding onto his arms. A woman with numerous knife wounds was lying on the ground. 10 bandits surrounded them. "Who the hell are you? And how did you get in here?" The bandit with the woman turned to Naruto. Naruto replied, "That doesn't matter. Unhand the little girl, now." The criminal began to giggle and replied, "Listen to this kid. He sounds like some after school special. Well, punk, this ain't some comic book. In the real world, when the hero busts through the door into a room full of bad guys, he gets his ass kicked. How about I show you? Boys, get him." The other bandits hurried Naruto after grabbing some weapons. A mace was carried by the first bandit to arrive at Naruto. He swung it at Naruto, but Naruto leapt over him in a flash. He initially thought Naruto would just jump over him, but instead he threw himself into the roof and smashed his head against it. Naruto was yelling obscenities as he went down. What on earth was that? That jump is something I've done 100 times. I told you so. TCH, whatever. As soon as Naruto got back up, he noticed that the first bandit was slashing at him with the mace once more. To the surprise of both himself and the bandit, Naruto shifted his hand and grasped the mace. Naruto held onto his mace as the bandit attempted to pull it back. The bandit stumbled forward as Naruto pulled the mace, and his face had a collision course with Naruto's fist. "Who's next?" Naruto asked, turning to face the other bandits after he had punched him in the face. As Naruto moved into a fighting stance, the other bandits all charged at him. Naruto leapt to his feet and kicked the closest bandit in the face as soon as they were close enough. The man was thrown off his feet and hit the floor hard. When Naruto noticed that the bandits were encircling him, it was simpler for them to leap him. Naruto knew they were going to do just that when he saw one of them charge at him. Naruto used his left hand to block one bandit's blow. Naruto spun around when he noticed another approaching from behind and used his left hand to block the bandit's kick. Naruto kicked the other bandit across the face with his leg before he could attempt to strike him. Naruto stepped forward and landed his knee in the bandit's stomach after he had lowered his foot.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.